Mr. Grey will see you now. Sexy Time Theater does it with 50 Shades of Grey. Hey guys, welcome to Sexy Time Theater. I'm Ben.
I'm Reese.
And I'm Shannon.
Last night, Shannon and I watched the SNL 40th anniversary.
How was that?
It was good. We had a good time watching it. It was,
Okay.
I mean, it's 3.5 hours, but it was funny.
Oh, wow.
It was a really long time.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas was in it.
No, did he teach anyone how to lick some nipples?
Took him to school
Yeah.
on national television. He did this little bit where he talked about how he was mad he only hosted one time. And he's like, I'm Hollywood royalty.
Oh,
I'm a sexual icon. I was like, you
That's
get
really
him, Michael
cool.
Douglas.
Yeah,
you are
right?
a sexual icon.
We can't disagree with you, Michael Douglas.
I'll take that.
And Catherine Zeta was right next to him and she was looking good.
Are they still together?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Even though he gave her throat cancer.
Awesome.
You know, she gave him throat cancer.
So he gave her throat cancer. I'm like, God, what's in this
Opposite.
semen? Jesus, like...
No, that's what he said was the reason for his throat cancer was because of HPV.
Oh my God, wow.
You didn't hear that?
No.
It was like a whole thing.
No. I was not paying
It was when he was going to play Liberace, and
Okay.
a lot of people were
Well,
like, he
Cal-
just said it
Cal-
because he's like, I'm playing Liberace, but for the record, I eat so much pussy, I got cancer from it.
I love Michael Douglas.
He's a real champ.
Yeah.
Sexual icon.
Sexual icon.
This week's movie, 50 Shades of Grey. Went to the movie theater, left Sexy Time Studios, got off the couch. Somebody today, I told them that's what we were going to do this week. And they're like, well, that's a new movie. Don't you do, like, retro shit?
Yeah.
And I was like, you gotta keep it current for the kids sometimes.
Exactly.
For the kids.
Yeah. I got asked a lot. They were like, oh man, so like, 50 Shades of Grey, right? Like, you guys are definitely going to watch that one, right? Like, I couldn't wait. Like, this was awesome. It was a cool little field trip that we had.
And we just went to our friend's brewery, Broken Goblet, and we walked in, and Reese was introducing me to someone, and they were like, she's from your podcast, right? And I was like, shut up. We have, like, one listener. And I love it. I'm so excited.
Oh, shit, the pod fame.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you need an autograph? I'm here. Well, I'm here.
25% rating currently on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ouch.
But fuck that. It made bank. 22nd biggest opening weekend of all time. $240 million.
Okay. I'm not surprised
That
at
makes
all.
sense. They went for the weekend where husbands had to take their wives to see it.
Smart move.
Smart marketing. They
Yeah.
were like, listen, men are not going to see this unless we make it a day when they get forced to do it.
I mean,
And since they can't do everybody's birthdays individually, they were like, let's go Valentine's Day.
totally, yeah. When we're talking about, like, buzzing movies, this has kind of been the one that's been on the tip of everyone's tongue for the last, like, year or so,
Definitely.
waiting for this release.
Between the interviews on TV about it and stuff like
Yeah.
that, it's been crazy.
It's the biggest opening weekend in February history.
Okay.
The last one was The Passion of the Christ. Also a BDSM movie.
Yes.
I went to the theater, I think I was in high school when that movie came out, and I remember going to the theater and there were like prayer circles in the middle of like the ticket line, and I was like, you guys need to like move. Like, we're trying to get tickets for this. Can you get aside?
Can you leave your guide at home so I can watch this
Get
movie?
away.
A lot of people have taken the piss out of E.L. James for this being Twilight fanfiction that snowballed into a book that snowballed into a juggernaut, but it really worked in her favor because I know Shannon read the books based on the fact that she ran out of Twilight books to read.
Somebody told me this was Twilight with sex, and I was like, alright, I'll read it.
Awesome selling point.
Got nothing better to do. Let's read it up.
The books are huge.
Definitely. The books are insanity. Like, they got so popular between, like, girls my age, younger girls, too, and definitely the older crowd.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like,
I think
it's a seminal piece for, like, the middle-aged, like, mom, right?
Oh, yeah. My mom's read it. Ben's mom's read it.
My mom wanted Shannon to come to her book
Yeah,
club.
she had a book
Really?
club.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really want to talk BDSM. with you. Not because I don't love my new mom, but because it's a little weird.
That's a line, that's a bridge we don't need to cross. Like,
Yeah.
soon.
But I like that she tried to include me. I was like, oh,
There
thank
you
you.
The movie studios went into a bidding war over this series.
I wish
And
someone else had won it.
everybody was throwing money E.L. James' way. She ended up getting $5 million
Wow.
from, I think it was Focus Features. They spent another $40 million on the movie.
I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, you probably know better than me, I heard that Angelina Jolie was bidding for this movie.
Really?
And
Not bidding for her production
to be
company?
the director,
Yeah.
And listen, I do not like her very much. I think she's a beautiful woman. I just don't really like her. But I feel like she would have done an amazing 50 Shades of Grey movie.
She should have played the inner goddess. Like whenever
Yeah!
Oh,
She should have been there. Although, listeners, if you don't know what the inner goddess is, it's like a book thing.
Yeah, we're gonna just talk about the movie. We're gonna try to steer clear of
Book
lot
talk.
of the book talk.
Yeah.
And we're gonna save a lot of the controversy, any kind of women's lib issues and feminism.
All to the end. We'll discuss it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to it.
I mean, this movie made my inner woman a little angry. My feminine side was just...
My husband got a little pissed.
Yeah, but we're just gonna try to talk about the movie because we tried doing this a couple days ago and it went 4 hours.
Yeah, I got a little defensive. What this recording 3?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is recording 3. We got back from the movies and I don't know, I feel like when you read a book you defend it even if it wasn't your favorite book. So I definitely got a little more defensive than I should have been.
I can't lie. I was a little bit on the attack because, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I'll put it out there.
I felt
about it.
very much like this movie wants women to feel, which is I was getting owned by everyone in this room.
I've been thinking about it, and it reminded me of last month I took Shannon to go see Inherent Vice, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Incoherent Vice.
And that's based on a Thomas Pynchon book, and it's very complex plot-wise. You know, the plot's all bullshit anyway. It's like a character crazy drug movie, but
Ben compared it to like The Big Lebowski. Like it's supposed to be just a random series
the plot
of events.
means nothing to anyone. Yeah,
right. But there's a lot going on, and they kept everything from the book and threw it into the movie without any frame of reference. So if you haven't read the book, you have no idea what's going on. So I enjoyed it a lot, and Shannon didn't because she didn't know what was going on.
Sounds like Joaquin Phoenix's career, basically. Yeah. We have no idea what's going on, but we like it for some odd reason.
Well, that's why I went to go see it, because I love him. I feel like we're spirit animals, because he's my spirit animal. He has a cleft palate like me. That's why his lip is messed up.
Oh, okay.
Because he has a cleft lip.
I didn't know that.
I felt like this was in service to the readers as well.
Definitely.
There was stuff like, there's something with a balloon that it's only in the movie for 5 seconds, but apparently it's a part of the book where he gets her this balloon that looks like an airplane or a dirigible or something.
Helicopter?
Helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes. It was stuff like that.
Where was that in the movie?
It's literally a montage, and just for 5 seconds you see a balloon that looks like a helicopter, but it has something to do with the book.
She liked Charlie Tango. That's the name of the helicopter.
Oh, yeah, they were in a helicopter.
Yeah, they ride one. That's why there's a balloon. I'm gonna be honest, I read this book 2 or 3 years ago. So you guys are gonna ask me for things, and I'm gonna be like, oh, it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I'll try my best to be the recollection of the books. And if we have any listeners that want to email us and say Shannon doesn't know what she was talking about, I will accept that criticism.
There were a lot of actors that almost were in this, a lot of directors that were offered the movie, but we ended up, after Charlie Hunnam walked away. Can
we ask around the table real quick, who was your Christian Grey? And I just want to hear some answers. Ben, did you have a Christian Grey in mind?
1962 Sean Connery.
No, someone that could actually be in it. Not somebody from, like, a time capsule.
Ooh, come back to me.
Come back to me. Okay, Reese?
I mean, I'm kind of stuck. Like, I had a different depiction of Christian Grey. I didn't know his character was supposed to be as young as he is in the story. So when I saw Jamie Dornan, it was kind of hard for me to swallow him being, in my mind, what Christian Grey embodied because he seemed so young.
You thought he was an older billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I had, like, more in mind of someone like a Clive Owen. Someone that had the style and sleekness of that with a little bit of age. So it made his strong, dominant hand be a little bit more believable. I mean, we'll get into that later, but that was one of the things that took me away from it is that
because he was so young.
He was so young. It was hard for me to swallow his dominant role.
Yeah, I think in the book he's like 27. For me, it was Alexander Skarsgård. I read this with Eric in my mind. I feel like he'd be perfect. The copper hair, the tall, like, he's supposed to be like a god.
We've already seen what his dick looks like.
Yeah. And, well, I try not to judge based off that episode. In my mind, it's way bigger. But go ahead, babe. Who do you think should be?
What about Malkovich?
No, stop it.
Let me think about it. I'll tell you by the end of the episode.
Okay, by the end of the episode, we'll come back to you.
But something about him being 27, they make it seem like he's this self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
His family's doing okay. They are very successful. So
I would venture to guess it's been passed down the business.
Yeah, see, and that was another thing too. Like, I thought he was supposed to be. I thought
he
was going to be this self-made man, and then you meet his mother, and they obviously are from
right.
So,
I'm saying it's more probably like the Facebook guy, the Zuckerberg kid. where he went to college and he went to an Ivy League school and he probably built this thing while he was in school. This thing we don't know what this business is. But
maybe his parents are rich, sent him to school, and then he kind of like came up.
Based on what we know about his business, it involves charitable work in Africa. It may be a pencil company, the Christian Grey pencil company.
Let's be real here. You can watch this movie and have no fucking clue what his company actually is.
No, if you just watch the movie, it's actually like a lot of Harry Potter books where if you don't read the book, you're just spending the movie explaining it to someone.
Yes.
The whole time I was like, I'm not going to explain what he does because even in the books, I don't really know what he does. That's not what you focus on. Okay. That's when no one went to the theater to find out. Nobody was like, I really want to come away from this, know what Christian Grey does for a living. We want to know what Christian Grey does in his bedroom. That's what we want to know.
But the Christian Grey we get is Jamie Dornan, who's... I haven't seen any of his other work, so... I've seen Once Upon a Time and...
Yeah, Once Upon a Time, he's the huntsman.
Okay.
And he was super hot as the huntsman.
He certainly has a look.
He's handsome.
I don't know, maybe... He's not given a lot to work with, to be fair.
He's not a god in my head. When you read the books, he's supposed to be like, everyone knows him. I don't know. He wasn't a god.
Seriously, that was one thing. I depicted Christian Grey from the book was supposed to be like this, god, stunning, really, really good looking guy. And don't get me wrong, Jamie Dornan is a very attractive man. He's very handsome, but he kind of looked like handsome in the overage frat boy type of handsome. He didn't pull off you know what I mean? Like,
I can see that.
His body's weird.
It's funny when you say he had a frat boy, you kind of look to him. The first time he takes his shirt off, he kind of looks like a frat guy. He's kind of ripped, but not too much. He plays sports, but he's not
he's not cutting beer out.
Yeah, he's not cutting beer out, exactly.
He's not Chris Pratt. He's like, I'm gonna cut beer out, I'm gonna go save the galaxy.
Oh my god, we can't even talk about Chris Pratt on this. I'm just gonna melt.
We don't have time for that.
He has these scars on his chest too, which...
That look like pimples. When he took his shirt off the first time, I was like, oh my god, those are pimples. Why would they shoot this? I knew about the burns because I knew, I read the books, but I was like, that doesn't look like burns. It looks like zits.
It looks like spirit gum. It looks like something you get from a Halloween store.
I don't know, something about how red they were. If it was a scar, it'd be white, but it'd be darker, and it was odd.
Yeah, because you're supposed to have those for years now. Fresh scars and that. Yeah.
Pink, and
the first time I saw him, I thought that I was like, is that supposed to be there? Is that part of the story, or does he just have a weird?
Are they supposed to be pimples? Or are they supposed to be whatever?
Dakota Johnson, daughter of Don and Melanie Griffith. She plays the lovely Anastasia Steele.
I had never heard of her before this, and because I was kind of upset when I knew she was going to be Anna. Somebody that people kept putting up was Alex Bledel or whatever. The one from Gilmore Girls, the daughter.
Alexis Bledel.
Alexis Bledel.
Yes.
Somebody said her, and I was like, I could kind of see her. She's a little older than what I would...
She's got a very youthful
young
look.
face.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. So I wasn't mad about that. When they said her, and somebody said... She's one of the girls from 21 Jump Street. And I was like, neither of them should be... and I didn't even remember what she looked like, but I was like, neither of them should be that character. But she actually did a decent job at this
Again,
movie.
she's working with what she's been given.
Yeah.
Because the character is so uneven, the story is uneven, so it's really hard for them to be consistent because they have to deal with how the tone shifts.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
definitely.
I like Dakota Johnson. She was a very attractive young girl. She definitely, I think, fit the role of, late college student, kind of girl next door-ish kind of looks. I don't know. There's, acting-wise, adds some grace, but we'll get into all of that when we actually get to the weight of the film, so.
Marcia Gay Harden's in it. I don't know why they even grabbed Academy Award winner Marcia Gay Harden. Bring her into this, because she's not really given that much to do. They could have had anybody play his mom.
Yeah, they really don't focus on the parents at all.
It's just like they threw some money at her to be in it, and then they threw some money at Max Martini. I mean, I'm not saying he's a big, he's a big get, but...
Max Martini.
Pacific Rim's Max Martini.
It's odd that they even put the parents in this one. If they were going to not use them at all, it would have made more sense than the little they did put into.
But with a name like Max Martini, how do you not cast that person in your film?
Especially when most people in your film are named after porn stars.
I was having a lot of fun with, Anastasia Steele is such a stupid name. I'll give Christian Grey a pass, but Anastasia Steele is such a goofy name that somebody that doesn't know how to write came up with.
Seriously,
but there is a guy in the real world named Max Martini.
Yes.
That
And
makes
he's
more
in
sense
this
for being in
movie.
50 Shades.
Dude, Anastasia Steele is a porn star name. You know, the name of your first pet and the street that you live on. Like, her first dog was named Anastasia, and she lived on Steele Court.
Yeah,
Horrible choice of a name.
I don't get hung up in the names. They call her Anna in the whole book, so
Yes.
I honestly forgot her last name was Steele until I said it. And I was like, oh no. Because I knew Ben, like, when you're a woman and you go to this movie with your husband, boyfriend, whoever, you're like, they're going to come out the other end of this judging you. You would hope that they put a little more effort into making it so you're less embarrassed.
Yes.
And they don't. They don't. They leave you in the lurch. They're like, fuck you guys.
There's this video on YouTube of, in France, they were doing one of those things where people are coming out of the movie and they're interviewing about what they thought of the movie, and they're interviewing this woman, and you see a guy come out of the theater behind the woman as they're getting interviewed, and he sees that there's a camera, and he starts to, like, turn around and try to hide, and he's just like, alright, I gotta own it, and he just kind of walks, like, past the camera, and he's just, like, got his head down.
It definitely is one of those movies where if you get dragged to see it, you're going to come out of the theater judging the other person pretty heavy. Which is why this is recording number 3. Because I was the only one that willingly went to 50 Shades of Grey.
It was written by the woman that, her name escapes me, I'm sorry, but she wrote Saving Mr. Banks. So it's got some heavy hitters involved in the writing of it. Bret Easton Ellis, the guy that wrote the American Psycho book.
Rules of Attraction.
Yes.
He
wanted to write.
Another, like, that book is hard to follow, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that movie as well is very disjointed.
He wanted to write it, and they didn't let him. They were like,
I would love the treatment by him.
Yeah.
I don't know, because, again, you just said the movie is hard to follow. The book was harder. You don't know what's real, you don't know what's not. I read Rules of Attraction before I saw the movie, because I had heard about the movie, and I was like, oh, I'm going to read it first.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have liked it written by him because I don't know what he does. Not that I don't know what he does, but he's a little all over the place.
Yeah, well, just from reading American Psycho, I would have liked to seen that type of like tact and attention to detail that you saw in Bateman's character in that book in a story like this. I thought it would have.
Didn't you say something about you thought the girl who wrote Juno did it?
No, that was me.
Oh, I think I would have loved that. I think she could do dirty just as well as she does comedy, which is what
she's an ex-stripper, so she definitely can get down and dirty.
It would have probably been punched up. The dialogue would have been more snappy. But they brought in the guy that wrote Closer to do a pass at the screenplay too, and then they didn't.
He would have been good.
They cut out everything he added. I think he probably would have brought some kind of depth to it, and definitely the dialogue probably would have been better.
Yeah.
The woman that wrote it, I think her last name was Marcel, Sophie Marcel. That doesn't sound right, but she.
Let's go with it.
Yeah,
it's
that's fine.
Good enough for me.
She was like, okay, this is gonna be NC-17.
No, it was Kelly Marcel. You were right. I'm sorry.
Okay. She thought it was gonna be NC-17, but the studio was like, we just spent $45 million on this thing. We're not gonna have it be totally impossible for people to go see it by making it NC-17.
It's R, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but it's like a lot of people say it's very neutered. So we'll get into the sex scenes later on.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if you're already rating it R, I don't know, NC-17 is younger than R to get in, isn't it?
No, R you can bring somebody under 17 in too. NC-17 you have to be 17.
Yes.
Oh, but see, I think
that's why it's a kiss of death for movies.
I think that this kind of movie should be like that anyway. I wouldn't take my teenage daughter or let my teenage daughter see this movie.
Yeah, but
it's not NC-17 level sex.
That's a parenting thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
not everybody feels that way.
If this movie made $240 million, their crowd that they would have lost for being an NC-17 rating, they probably would have made like $140 million. Like, that's just the truth.
I feel like they still would have made bank. Most of the people that I know that read this are older than me.
We all know how the world works, guys. Somebody brought a baby to this thing.
Mm-hmm. There was definitely a crying child somewhere in the theater.
How many babies do you think were made after this thing? That's the question now.
I don't know that they're, like...
Well, guys, was it sexy? We'll find
out.
We will get to the end.
But yeah, so I don't think it was necessarily something where NC-17 would have heard it. And I said this is awkward to my mom, because my mom has read the book, so we were talking about it, and I said, the messed up part about it is, like, when they get to, like, the sex scenes, it's all foreplay is, like, all this stuff is.
All the meat
so they could have cropped out her boobs and, like, just focused on her butt with, like, underwear on while he hit her. Like, you could have done so much, and it still could have gotten a R rating, I felt like. To be fair, I don't know what goes into that, how many sex scenes qualify an NC-17 movie.
Well, it's not
Maybe
about
it's
the number of
anything
sex
over
scenes,
3.
it's about what's involved. Like, if we had seen his dick, it would have been NC-17.
You should have seen his dick. It would have made him more likable, I feel like, if you had seen his dick. Because if you're gonna see her everything, you should see his, like, dick. Or even, like, him getting off of bed and, like, maybe you see a shot of it. You don't see any of that.
We got some pubes.
Yeah, pubes, like, that's it.
It's weird that he's so well groomed up top, but he's got a small jungle going on downstairs.
Well, they keep stuff like that in, so it's more predominant on camera and stuff like that.
It's true.
And maybe it was a merkin. You don't know.
Merkin. I think you've said merkin in every episode of this podcast. It's like your staple.
Tiffany says it a lot, so I know what it is.
And the director was Sam Taylor Johnson, wife of Kick-Ass's Aaron Johnson.
Very much older wife of Aaron Johnson.
It is a May December romance. She was 42 when they were married. He was 19.
What? Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
weird.
It's 20.
Weird.
I try not to judge age-wise. Yeah, no, I try not to judge age-wise, but...
They have a couple kids, too.
Get out of the teens.
Yeah.
Is what you would think.
Yeah. I don't know. Ellen Barkin's married to a much younger man, like 30 years.
Yeah, but like...
Ellen Barkin is fine. It's not surprising at all.
Ben would run away with her. We can't talk about it.
I'd be right behind him.
I'd bark up that tree.
When I was 19, I didn't want to get married. I was like, let's, and I was with Ben at the time. I was like, I don't want to be married. Like, let's be young. Like, I feel like if I was 19 and somebody was 42, I'd be like, we need to, like, give it a little bit.
It's Hollywood, baby.
It's Hollywood, baby. Laters, baby.
Laters, baby.
That's never explained, but apparently that's a thing from the book, too.
Yeah, it's a thing from the book. They really don't care about the book in this.
Well, no, but they did come back to that a bunch. Every time, like, you say goodbye to her pretty much after that scene. I love how they do that in. I can't even lie. Like, I've been saying that to my girlfriend since we saw that movie. And every time I say it, she's just like, God, like, just stop saying it. Ladies,
Reese,
babe.
You ignorant slut.
I
You
know,
don't even know what you're saying.
Nope, not at
all. All right, let's dig in.
All
Shannon,
right.
lead the way.
Let's dig in. For those of you, we did mention it was Twilight fanfiction. You'll kind of see that throughout it's a running theme through the movie. It opens on Anastasia Steele. She's with her friend Kate Kavanaugh, which I thought was also an odd name. That was kind of porn story as well.
Well, like Kavanaugh's very hoity-toity. That name sounds like you come from money.
They live together, they're going to school together, and Kate Kavanaugh is a journalist major.
She's played by knockoff Katherine Heigl. I don't know what her name is.
But she was very pretty.
Totally can see that.
I thought she was really cute. Christian Grey is the keynote speaker at their graduation ceremony. So she's going to go do an interview with him. But because she's sick, she sends Anna to go to the interview for her. Anna is a major in English
Lit,
right? So she's a major in that. She's sending her out to go meet Christian.
She also works at a hardware store, so her plan for after school is to continue working at that hardware store because she has an English Lit degree.
She has no life goals.
And they're in Portland, home of Body of Evidence.
Her life goal is marry a billionaire, and she does it well. So
she's from Portland. He's in Seattle. She drives all the way to Seattle during the opening credits, where the song is Annie Lennox covering I Put a Spell on You, and she fucking nails it. It's amazing.
Ben saw the Grammys and was like, this is amazing.
Annie Lennox
Came home, she is
genius.
amazing. It was just funny.
Yeah.
Ben was like, you hear this cover? I'm like, who is Annie Lennox?
Oh, come on.
No, but, like, once he described it, I knew who it was. But, like, based off name, I had no clue. But, yeah, she drives to Seattle in her friend's car. Her friend has, a BMW or something, which is way nicer than her Bug.
Yep.
She has, like, an old VW Bug. She drives this car all the way to Seattle, and when she gets there, it's Christian Grey's office. Which... the people that work there are the girls from the Addicted to Love video. Like, it's kind of like when you walk in and you see those tall blondes in, like, the nice suits.
Yeah.
And they're just, like, typing on a computer.
Do you think his business is, like, cloning?
Maybe.
There you go.
Maybe cloning is his business, because all those girls have that tight blonde bun in the back of their head with the tight outfits on.
Like he stole Hitler's DNA somehow and...
he's just manufacturing women. That would be more believable than whatever else he does. Because I bet you would make a lot of money.
Clean water in Africa.
Bullshit. So yeah, so she walks in and like she's looking around and she's just in awe and they're like, okay, Mr. Gray, we'll see you now, in the famous line. And she goes in to meet him. That's the first time we see Jamie Dornan as Christian and he's standing by the window. I don't know, in the book it's such a big thing the first time she sees him. This was possibly the most awkward interaction between two people I've seen since Twilight. It is going back to when they meet for the first time and it's awkward hems and haws, like, to kind of just look at each other.
Well, I've seen that scene in Twilight. This is better than that.
Yeah, it's better, but it's probably the most awkward I've seen since then. Like, it definitely is an odd, like...
Well, she
stares at him too long and he kind of takes too long to walk around the desk.
Well, again, like, I mean, I don't know, like, something, like, already took me out of the element of this film is that she was just so sappy.
She falls.
And doe-eyed. Like,
she seems to have never been outside before.
Yes.
Yeah, she falls in the door. She's, like, awkward. So she meets him. She's doing the interview. Her friend has written down questions, some of which are inappropriate. She does say something like, are you gay? And he's like, why would you ask that? And they kind of have an odd interaction. He's like, I don't release my personal life. Kind of delving into how it could be that he has a really kinky personal life, but he doesn't talk about it.
Well, there's jokes there.
Yeah, definitely.
My personal time involves various physical activities and pursuits.
You guys would know that better.
This scene is funny. They're going for humor here, at least.
But see, and that's what the key term is, going for humor. I think at this point in the movie, we weren't even 10 minutes in the film, and I'm texting Shannon, like, I can't even with this movie right now. I just couldn't take it. It was so cheesy and it wasn't funny, and I was like, are they serious right now with this screenplay?
And you know what's funny? I took myself outside of it today. I was like, what if I had never read this book? And I didn't know that Christian Grey was into BDSM. And I just went into this movie, and he's, like, emphasizing just random words in his sentence. I'm like, are you okay? Like, you alright? Why are you saying it like that? You're a weirdo.
I did not like this. Like, the movie got a little better for me later on, but this opening scene just took me out of the element.
Again, it was a very awkward... The way they talk to each other is slow. Also, he has a bunch of pencils lined up on his desk. And she has no pen for this interview. She has the recorder, but not the pen. And he's like, hands her one.
That's because he's smarter and better than her in every way.
He's smarter and better than her.
She's just this waif-like child, much like Selma Blair. That needs a man to come into her life and fix everything.
It looked like a teacher's desk that was, like, ready for children to take an exam. It had 6 lined up sharpened pencils.
And my thing is, basically that scene was nothing but an excuse for Dakota just to literally have, like, oral sex with pencil for 5 minutes.
That had his name on it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was...
Like, big black pencil.
Yeah, I could not deal with it.
Yeah, she had it in her mouth the whole time. It was odd. Again, when I took myself outside of it, I was like, if someone just saw this would be really fucking weird. Yeah. Like, I knew what he was saying, because I know he's into that kind of thing, but whatever.
But she slips in some questions that aren't written down.
About personal life, because his passion projects.
Right.
The Africa thing.
That's the thing. She's kind of supposed to be this dope that doesn't really know how the real world works. Yeah. But then she's challenging him. She's like, well, you do care about people, and you aren't just this cold monster.
She's not supposed to be a dope. She just comes off like one. She's graduating college, guys. She's got an education under her belt. I think she's an undergrad, but she's got an education under her belt. She's going for it. He kind of treats her like she's never been outside because she's acting like that. When they do talk about Africa, though, and she's like, it sounds like a passion project, and he's like, it's not. And then, like, he just shuts her down. He's like, nope, you're wrong. And she's like, okay. It's an odd thing. I agree. So she leaves there. She goes back to the house, and Kate Kavanaugh is completely fine. And this way, she goes back to the house. Kate's good.
Would you go as far to say that there was little to no chemistry in between Dornan and Johnson in the opening sequence?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
Only
There's more chemistry there than there is in many of the scenes that follow.
Yeah, they have a back and forth there that works. Even though it's an awkward back and forth, I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
They still have this thing where their eyes lock, and it's a different...
Okay.
You can tell he's feeling her. I don't know that you feel the same way back, but you know that he feels her.
Oh, no, the entire scene...
Because her eyes are kind of glazed over.
Now, that was my whole thing. The entire scene, to me, I felt like she was, like, head over heels, like, gaga over him. He obviously is playing with her. He's obviously, like...
Yeah, like, he's having his
testing
way
her.
with her
Yeah.
in his head. I imagine that all through college, and you're a journalist major, if you get an interview with a billionaire, hell and high water is not going to keep me away from what could make or break my career. Like, I interviewed Christian Grey, and this is my amazing paper. But she only got, like, 4 questions in during the interview, so she comes home terrified that she's, like, in trouble.
When she leaves, she gets in the elevator, and he goes, Anna, and she goes, Christian, doors closed. Because that's a big callback later on, the way they...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
didn't even realize until you just pointed that out, that was a reflection
the
of what
first
comes
day
up later
they
in the
get
film.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any of the questions answered. Kate's, like, on the computer with a couple of tissues there, and she's like, thanks for all, you're amazing, thanks for all the answers.
She was totally fine.
Yeah, and she's like, he just
Elizabeth.
emailed me all his answers, which kind of begs the question, why couldn't she just email him more questions?
When you're dealing with someone of such a high caliber as Christian Grey's character, you have to show face. Like,
You have to show face. I would imagine that, but
For a college newspaper, though?
I feel like you could email questions.
In the real world, if somebody from a college newspaper, say, wanted to talk to a Warren Buffett or a Zuckerberg,
they'd be like,
or whatever,
email me.
and they somehow pulled the strings to do it, they would email him, and somebody that works for him, probably
Would
his
approve the
publicist
questions.
or his assistant, would
think-
just do it for
I
him.
don't even think it would be a choice. I think they would have to
Email the
him these
questions before you could even talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. MGM, guys. Like,
Yeah.
there's magic in the movies. She's completely fine. She's like, thanks so much, you're God. And she's like, I'm going to work. Which is at this hardware store, which we are kind of making fun of. She does change jobs in future books. Spoilers to everyone. But for right now, she works in a fucking hardware store.
Ace is the place for the friendly hardware folks, yes.
Yeah. Like, while she's working, you know, the one guy is kind of creeping on her, but she's doing her job. And Christian comes in.
Yes.
So, this is the second time we see him. Is he in a suit?
No.
No, he's in casual
He's
wear.
in, like, street clothes.
Like a V-neck t-shirt and jeans. And
Yeah,
things
he's, like, more
yeah.
relatable, and he's, like, asking her for things.
He looks like at least he's working on a hardware project. If he had shown up in a suit, it's like serial killer.
Yeah, it's odd.
They make a cute little serial killer joke.
Yeah, they
There.
do make a serial killer joke because he is kind of stalking her.
Yeah,
He knows
yeah.
where she works.
He buys, like, tape and cable ties and,
Yeah, his
rope.
his grocery list for the hardware store is cable ties, tape, and rope.
And everybody in the audience was tittering and giggling during this because we all know what...
We all know what his thing is.
He's gonna go build a fort.
And they make it
That's what
funny.
it is.
Before I went and saw this, I didn't see it during the weekend because everywhere around us was sold out
Yes,
tickets.
yeah.
I started reading reviews, and a dominant, I don't know how you say that, a dominatrix, whatever, went in and saw the movie and reviewed it and said something about how cable ties are absolutely horrifying and that if you are going to experience any kind of BDSM, do not use cable ties.
That's a hard limit.
Yeah.
It's a red. It's a red, guys. It's a red. And then he said it will seriously, like, harm or maim the person that you're tying up.
The same with tape, too, I'd imagine.
Tape is ripping skin.
Oh, my
yeah.
God, yeah.
So it's kind of scary what he buys, and he's kind of making jokes with her at the counter. Meanwhile, Ace heard her raper comes up behind her and is, like, rubbing her shoulders, and he's like, you all right up here? Like, real creepy.
It seems so forced, too. It seems like
he might as well have pissed on her.
Yeah,
he might as well just been like, here you go.
I feel like the director was in the background, like, now, go be creepy, and, like, pushes him into the camera. Like, you just, I don't know.
He could have just came up behind her and been like, you cool? Like, and we would have still understood what he was doing.
Yes.
And this doesn't set anything up for later. In this movie, maybe in one of the next movie or whatever. Coming out in 2016.
Sex Time Theater is waiting with bated breath.
Oh, I stole the words out of
Yeah,
my mouth.
I knew what you're going for. So while he's in the hardware store, he's purchasing all the stuff, sees that guy pissed on her, and she's like, my friend really wanted you to, you know, come over for a photo shoot because we really need, like, pictures of you. And he's like, I can make it work, and hands her the business card with his cell phone number on it.
One thing that was totally believable is Dorman portrayed how much he was interested in Dakota's character.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I bought the entire time.
You felt the
like,
chemistry later, too. You
Well, he's
feel
like
it.
boring a hole through the back of her head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
He's
I mean,
very
those
intense.
intense gray contact things, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
He's intense.
I don't think he was intense at all. Like, I really don't.
You don't think that it was intensely awkward how he was staring at her when that guy was rubbing your shoulder?
No, I definitely could feel his desire for her, which I just pointed out. Like, that was very prevalent. But My big gripe with Dornan's performance the entire film is I felt like I was watching a movie where a character was trying to portray something. When you watch a movie, you should just watch the character be that character.
Yeah, like you shouldn't have to watch him working for it.
I didn't think he could pull anything off but the intensity. I feel like everything else was he couldn't grasp. Like he couldn't get a good handle on the character. But
it was hard for him to be well rounded about it. It's like I get what you're saying there.
I felt the way with everything. Everything about Christian Grey for Dornan, to me, I felt I was watching an actor trying to be a role, not just the role being played out in front of me.
I felt the intensity so much that it took me a long time to realize that Christian Grey, at least in this movie, is a little bitch.
When Ben wasn't being a raging feminist, he was like, oh, this guy.
I was doing like, this is disgusting. He's a monster. Be like, he's a little bitch. Spank her harder.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like we'll get to all of that once we get to the scenes, but I felt like a lot of the BDSM stuff was very tame. I'm not going to put too much of my personal life out there, or like how I like to get down in between the sheets. But I mean, I've dibbled and dabbled in what people would call BDSM lifestyle, and honestly,
I've dibbled. I haven't dabbled.
Not the dabble. You got to dabble before you can truly make a judgment call. This stuff was like honestly pretty tame. I mean,
vanilla.
It was a little vanilla. Minus later on in the film where they use like the whole testing of the limits thing. That's really hardcore.
He agrees to this photo shoot. He's like, fine, just call me and we'll set it up. Her friend Jose is a photographer. Christian comes to the photo shoot in his gray suit, gray tie, gray everything. He's getting pictures in front of a gray screen. Like, they really fished you.
Yeah, they drove that home.
Yeah, with how gray is.
There's a point later on when he wears a brown suit, and it's startling.
Holy shit. You see, like, Jose taking these pictures. Jose, just to kind of reference, is the Jacob of this story. He's the friend that kind of is platonic, doesn't really have anything to do with anything in the first book.
His jawline is nowhere near as sexy as how
nowhere near,
I will say.
No, definitely. What's his face? Hotter. Who's that?
Lautner.
Taylor Lautner is way hotter.
Most definitely.
This guy is kind of a middle-aged Mexican guy.
No, he's supposed to be her age.
He looks older than that.
Well,
yeah,
but
he looks like he's like 35 hanging around with these
okay,
kids.
Imagine Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite, and that's about as sexy as this guy is. Like, seriously.
They could have found a sexy friend.
They could have.
Because in the book, he's not supposed to be ugly.
No, I mean, if you're going to be the Jacob, quote-unquote character for this movie that is, a derivative of the fanfiction.
He's attractive, he's just not what she wants.
Yeah. This character is a swipe at actual human men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christian Grey isn't a real human being.
He's a caricature of a person.
Yeah, Jose is the entitled man, like, I like you, so therefore you must like me, or how dare you friend zone me guy, like, he is that.
He's kind of a hipster. He has his art gallery showing that's coming up.
When he agrees to do this, Christian comes in, he's all stern, and, like, they make him kind of crazy. So you're looking at him, and he's just this angry face, and Jose's like, can you smile? And he's like, won't do it.
Didn't even try.
Yeah, and I guess that's supposed to be funny. Walking out to leave, and he's like, so is that guy your boyfriend? And she's like, no. And then he's like, what about the guy at the hardware store? And she's like, who, that guy? No, definitely not.
My man's counting, keeping tabs.
Yeah.
He wants to know what his challenge is.
If you thought that Christian just went to that hardware store and didn't take note of everyone that touched her, you're wrong. He did.
He's not playing it cool. He's not making it conversational.
No.
He's like, I'm going to go through a list of every man I've seen you with, and I want to know whether or not you're fucking them.
And this also, it's a kind of a warning sign that I keep very careful notes on your personal life. Yeah, I agree.
Like I said before, it is totally believable how much Christian is infatuated with Anna. That's one thing that I bought.
Yeah, definitely. And I was nervous because there were interviews where they don't like each other.
Yeah.
And you had heard it and seen it, but you kind of were like, oh, maybe they won't be like that in the movie. And they did do a good job at surpassing their personal feelings, I guess, for each other. So they are having coffee. He buys her a muffin, and he opens it and puts it in front of her, and he's like,
eat the muffin.
Here, eat. It just is very...
He's
uncomfortable.
He's instilling his control.
Yeah, and exercising that control over her, but slightly. Like, she doesn't even pay attention to it.
No.
And he's like, you need to eat. And he, like, puts it in front of her.
But this is him testing the waters.
Testing the waters, seeing if she'll, like, comply with whatever. It's an odd thing. If you didn't read the books, again, if you didn't know he was into that, you just be like, who the fuck is this guy? Eat your own fucking muffin. Like, who are you?
Reading the books are down, I think pretty much anyone going into this movie knows that Christian is a control freak and he wants to dominate this world.
Yeah, in the book at this point, you don't know what Christian's real intentions are. So to have him kind of like force-feeding her is weird.
He says weird things out of any kind of context the whole movie, though.
Yeah. And he's saying weird things in that diner, like he's kind of quizzing her, like, what about your family? And
he goes, what made you fall in love with the written word? Was it the works of Emily Bronte, Jane Austen, or Thomas Hardy? And she's like, it was Thomas Hardy.
Yeah.
Had to be one of those three.
Yeah, like,
hold on, let me take a second to pick up all these names I just dropped. That's what that was.
All I wanted her to say was like, Dr. Seuss.
E.L. James.
Written word. Yeah, like it was.
Stephanie Ware.
It was odd that he gave her a list of names, and that when she wasn't like, well, none of those people, and two, she was like, yeah, it's actually Hardy. That's amazing that you knew that. Ben was saying, like, it's supposed to be him picking up on her personality, but he doesn't know anything about her personality yet. All he knows is, like, meeting her twice. Maybe he's, like, for an awkward person that you feel like you have to, like, hand feed Tom Hardy or whatever. Tom Hardy.
Knowing Christian Grey, he did his homework. You know,
yeah.
He knew what he was doing and knew what comments he was referencing.
He's like one of those characters on like a TV show like House, where he's a genius and he always has the right thing to say and he knows what everyone's thinking and what their personality is just by spending 5 minutes with them. Mm-hmm. But he never actually has like any skills or anything to back that up.
Yeah.
He just says weird off-putting shit.
Yeah, it's just an odd, you came to my work and then we did this and you're feeding me.
Who does that?
Yeah, so then at one point he just gets up and he's like, I gotta go. Like, it's not like oh, I'm so sorry, I have to cut this meeting short.
They share like a moment and then he pushes her away and goes, I gotta go. This works on two levels. Either he was attracted to her, but he didn't know if she would be into any of the stuff that he's into, so he's just like, I gotta cut this off and nip it in the bud and end it right now. Or it was a mind fuck where it was like, I'm gonna use the dentist system on you and push you away.
So they leave the diner, and when they leave and they're walking away, there's a bicyclist that is just coming at them. Yeah. He's coming at, like, right to them, and Christian sees it, but she has no clue because she's mesmerized by him. And he saves her from this bicyclist, and they come face to face. And he says something to the effect of, I don't do this hearts and romance kind of thing.
He saves her because she's not smart enough to look when she walks off of a curb.
Yes, it's crazy the way that they kind of treat her like a child.
Being a 21-year-old virgin and just being like completely socially inept are two totally different things, and that is something that like she did not portray well because she was just socially inept.
Yeah, you can be a virgin and you can be someone who's odd in your own skin. You know, people feel that way sometimes, like they're not meant for where they are or who they are, and you can portray that, but she doesn't do that.
No.
She does a different something. The next scene is them, like, they're doing their exams, and they get done, and...
This is when she's caressing the pencil all over her lips, right?
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. But we get back to the oral fixation of Anna and her, like, more or less just giving a blowjob to this pencil while she's taking this test.
Yeah, she loves to just, like, suck on the pencil at all times. Kate comes up to her after the exam, and she's like, we're gonna party tonight, right? And you expect... for a college, it would be a major, like, rager. Like, their exams are over, they're gonna party.
Not hanging out at the bar at TGI Fridays.
It turns out it's just hanging at a bar. It takes them back to their house. She's getting ready to go to this club. She's putting lipstick on her. Literally the most minimal makeup that I've ever seen on a person.
I feel like she really whored her up.
Really? There was lip gloss.
She was real tart.
If lip gloss is, whoring you up, then I must look like trash every day. Because she puts a little bit of lip gloss on her and some mascara and...
Shannon, I love you. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You don't look like a tart. And we're leaving that in the podcast.
Why? You're being very
Oh, I like that. No.
Then your intensity is intimidating.
He's landing on the line and putting it out on the internet for all to hear. I like that, Ben.
It's awkward. I'm gonna be the first. That's weird. So she's getting her ready. She's like, we're gonna doll you up. You're gonna get some tonight. Like,
Yeah.
she's dialing up her 21-year-old virgin friend. She's like, we gotta fucking solve this. We need to have sex tonight. While they're getting ready, these books come to the house, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and they're just getting their mail.
Seriously.
And she opens them up, and they're first editions of these Hardy books.
Thomas Hardy, not the Hardy Boys.
I was gonna say...
Really?
I couldn't think of the name of it. It's not the Hardy Boys.
It's Thomas Hardy. Can I say the entire time I'm thinking, like, when did Tom Hardy write books? Like, really? Like, I'm out of the loop. Yeah. Like, in between, making Batman and Lawless, he can crank out a couple novels.
What's the one where he's naked, he's butter wrestling in the channel?
Oh, Bronson? Oh, yeah, man.
It was in between Bronson and Batman. He released a couple first editions.
Nobody cared about those books.
Until
he put on the mask.
Until Anna was talking to Christian one day, and then all of a sudden, she gets these first editions, she's like, these are too much. Mind you, no one has any clue what they are, because nobody gives a shit about this writer except her. That's not true. I don't know who this writer is. I personally don't give a shit about this writer, because I don't know what he's written. So she's like, I can't accept these. I'm gonna have to, give them back to him. She figures out that she's gonna do once she's 3 sheets to the wind at a bar with all of her friends. So she's in line for the bathroom. Mind you, as she's going to the bathroom, Jose's like, you good? And he's rubbing up on her, and she's like, I just gotta go pee, bro.
Yeah,
leave me alone.
The rape vibe starts very, very soon.
Yeah, it's kind of like you've had enough to drink, right? Like, we going out?
We've all seen this character in other movies. The friend that's into the girl, but the girl's clueless.
Very not Jacob.
Yeah, I've seen this scene in very many mirrors at parties.
Mm-hmm. I've lived this scene,
yes,
actually.
I am this scene.
Reese has been there with me while I've lived this scene, actually.
She at one point says, oh, we're like family, so she has no idea. No. And they don't really set it up. They don't even give him, usually they give these guys, a shot where he's like, oh, and he kind of looks at her. We don't even get that. So we don't have any setup for when he makes this move.
You just get this guy who's way older than them, kind of hanging around them. He looks way older. Don't get that face.
He has a high hairline.
Yeah, high hairline.
He's got a 5 head. Let's be serious, okay?
He's rubbing up on her. She's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Bye. Bro, leave me alone. So she gets in the bathroom line, and she does that thing that all drunk girls do. All our fellow listeners, if you ever get a drunk girl call, they want you there. They want this person to be there. So she calls Christian, hey, those books were way too much. You know it.
Was her drunk over the top? Her acting, Dakota's acting of the drunk?
I thought it was good.
I was too distracted by the Motorola flip phone from 2005.
I'm glad that you brought it up and I didn't have it too. And another thing...
Guys, she's simple. I'm, unique and awesome, and I drive a VW Bug that's really old.
The production designers dropped the ball because, okay, she's got a flip phone. Even if I was going to buy that, which I didn't, mind you, but even though I was going to buy the fact she had a flip phone, why does she have iMessage and her phones have iTunes, fucking iPhone ringtones?
Right? If you get a track phone from a store, you can get, a smart track phone.
Yeah.
They don't...
You can. I'm saying, what they needed to do was, there were kids that were younger than us seeing this, and if it's not an Apple text tone, they don't know what it is. It's not like it could have been, the Michael Scott ringtone from The Office, where it's do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Some polyphonic ringtone that you made by pressing keys on your Nokia.
Listen, when I had that phone, I think Big Papa in do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I had In the End by Linkin Park. It was
It's ridiculous that I love it when you call me Big Papa. And
I have Linkin Park. Yeah, that says way too much about her personal life.
I had System of a Down. Everybody's going to the party, have a real good...
When it was flipped...
Polyphonic ringtones.
And that was my, track phone, flippy...
Yeah.
The phone thing, I was like, oh, well, they have to, little kids don't give a fuck about the past. So she's, on this phone, she's calling him, she's like, you're so silly, I'm gonna return those books. Hangs up. So then he calls her back, and what every girl wants, again, guys, if you get a drunk phone call, that girl wants you usually.
I was thinking out, a little bit, I was really, because he was all, you've been drinking, you're drunk. I'm like, you...
Well, yeah, when he calls her back.
Yeah, I'm like, you haven't been dating this girl at all. Like, you have no connection to this girl. Like, how dare you be talking to her like you've been drinking? Like,
but you can tell he's intense and he would give a shit about something like that. You can tell from, like, the way
she is at a bar.
Yeah.
With her friends.
Yeah.
That's it. She drank a little too much.
Yeah.
Everyone her age has been there.
Yeah.
And he acts like
Bitch.
this dum-dum.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
it was so, he landed on so thick.
Yeah, he definitely is like, you've been drinking, what's wrong with you? And then he's like,
how dare you?
He's like,
tone.
Stay put, I'm coming to get you.
She's too stupid to realize she's in danger by going out with her friends and drinking.
Which isn't a danger. It can be.
Except it is, apparently, because all of a sudden your friends will turn on you and try to have relations with you on a busy, crowded sidewalk.
Well,
of course,
she leaves, so she gets out, he's like, I'm coming to get you, so she's like, I better go outside. Without a jacket, and she's in a t-shirt, and she runs outside, and she's waiting for him.
Well,
Jose...
she wasn't necessarily waiting for him. I think she was just kind of drunk and in stupor at that point. Just
but if he's like, I'm coming to get you, she's like, wait, hold on.
I thought it was like she was bailing before he got there.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. I thought she was like kind of going out to meet him, to see if he was actually going to show up.
Yeah.
But when she gets out there, she doesn't have her jacket on, so Jose comes out, and he's like, hey, you forgot your jacket. And he's putting her jacket on her, and then he definitely tries to be like, come on, let's get to it, right? Yeah. And she's like, no. And he's like, no, come on, though. And because he's presumably, as drunk as she is.
No, that's complete bullshit. He was definitely not as drunk as she was.
Not as drunk, but they've been drinking. So
this is like one of those things where he's like, oh man, we're both so wasted.
Yeah, exactly. That's all
definitely like that.
This shit's crazy.
But he's been drinking
I'm totally
too.
feeling it.
So he probably,
101.
I just think he had his beer courage on. He was like, I'm gonna go for this. Tonight's my night.
Yeah, I totally with you on
We're done finals.
Yeah.
I finally got my art installation. Everything's coming up, Jose.
I photographed... Everything's coming up, I finally photographed that guy that was kind of into her. Like, we're in.
Yes.
I think that he kind of had, like, that beer courage is what he was going with. And he's like, no, it's okay. You'll like it when it starts. Like, kind of thing, which is very uncomfortable. And Christian swoops in and is just like, no means no, bro. And, like, pushes her.
He might as well came in and speared her, like, seriously, with a Goldberg check. Like, he was on top of it.
The way he moves in and Christian comes out of nowhere and is like, she said no. It's like a high school production. It's very just, like, poorly choreographed.
I would have liked some sweet chin music. He just came up and was like, don't touch her.
That would have been badass. Oh, man. That would have been so great. Yeah.
Then giving him the stone cold.
I know they're going from somebody else's material, but wouldn't it have made more sense for Sam to have been the rapey one and make some kind of move on her and Christian beat the shit out of him?
Sam's the guy from the hardware store.
Just so we go back. Sam's the guy from the hardware store that's rubbing her shoulders.
Yes.
Most guys in her life are trying to rape her. If you go based off this movie, there's a lot of rapey vibes coming her way, and she deals with all of it.
I'm sorry.
Maybe that's why she hasn't had sex, and she's almost 21, because she's like, I'm gonna get raped.
I'm tired of almost getting raped.
I wouldn't be interested in sex if I thought it was gonna be, like, with every guy who's just awkward. At the photo shoot, he mentions that he's staying at the hotel, which is how he was so close to her when she was at the bar. And she starts throwing up after he saves her. She's all over the place. She's gross. Yeah, she's just puking everywhere.
White girl wasted.
Totally.
Anna got white girl wasted bar. So he takes her back to the hotel. They wake up the next morning. There's this thing on the table next to her. It's aspirin and a water. And it says, eat me, drink me.
Yes. Very Alice in Wonderland. Very dreamy. You know, she's entering a new world.
She's falling into Christian's hole.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Or is Christian falling into her hole?
So he comes back from his jog in the morning. He sees her and he's like, how you feeling? And she's like, did you change me? Because she's in like a white t-shirt. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, your clothes were covered in vomit. I had to. Like, I had to do this solid.
I had to do the solid so I can see you naked and just make this completely okay and not rapey.
I
saying.
I hope that she's still at a bra on. You really can't tell at any point in this movie if she's wearing one. But I do hope that she's still had the undergarments on. He's coming in. He's definitely about to get a shower. That's the first time he rips off that shirt. And you get to see, you know, the Christian body that you were hoping to see. It falls flat. We think there's zits on him. Not that he isn't a good-looking man, and with him without his shirt on is fine with me.
Yeah.
But in the
he's still better than 99% of the human beings on the planet.
Don't get me wrong. He's still a very sexy guy.
I was still totally, I was still totally buff Jamie Dornan. I don't want to say that I wouldn't.
Don't get me wrong. From my previous comment, he was a very attractive guy.
And I like when guys have meat on them, like a little bit of like whatever. But he definitely wasn't the ripped, crazy guy that you read in the books, where he's just so into like fitness and schedule and everything that he wouldn't look like that.
Yeah,
but
he makes a big thing about her drinking alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, well, again, because he's very disciplined in his everyday life, I guess, but that's why his body should
how many times the rest of the movie do we see them just chugging wine? I feel like he's one of those secret alcoholics. Is like, nobody should...
No, it's wine.
Wine drug doesn't count.
If there's anything we've learned from the second Sexy Time Theater, and that is that wine is just good, and you should enjoy it.
You were so drunk you don't realize it was the third Sexy Time Theater.
Oh, man.
You know what? That's rude. I don't correct you, sir. Those wine drinks are him feeding them to her.
Yes.
Here, you can have a glass of wine. Here, we're doing this. It's never her alone again, like just getting drunk on her own. And the one time it is, he's like a second cocktail, and he takes it from her.
Oh, yeah.
So he's definitely controlling every aspect of her life. You know, he wakes up and he says something like, if you drank like that when you were mine, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a week.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure where he was going with that quote.
Yeah.
At all. It's like, how dare you drink alcohol? Because I'm going to fuck you in the ass. That's all I thought when I was sitting in my seat.
If I woke up in a hotel and somebody said that to me, I'm like, am I able to sit down? Like, what did you do? Like, now I'm nervous. And what happened while you were undressing me? And then he runs up like a kid and like jumps on the bed and like takes a bite of her bread.
Yeah.
I saw somebody tweet, they were like, the most shocking thing in 50 Shades of Grey is when he steals her toast.
And then he says, and it's pretty much like a Brokeback line where he's like, I can't quit you. And she's like, don't. That's the end of that. He's like, my driver brought you clothes. Go home. You're fine. We'll take you home. She gets changed. They get to the elevator, and she's biting her lip, which is a famous staple of the book. Yep. She bites her lip.
Eye roller, lip biter. Yep.
And he's like, I want to bite that lip. And he's like, fuck the paperwork. And he pushes her up against the elevator wall and just started making out.
She's into it, but in the back of her head, she's like, is he just saying words? Did he have a stroke?
Like, what the fuck? Yeah. What paperwork? Why won't my ass hurt for a week? I would be concerned at this point.
But we're 4 for 5 for movies with elevator scenes.
Yeah, we're definitely into the elevator.
It's a motif.
Yeah.
We're into loving an elevator, guys.
Living it up and never going down.
She says that she has work, and he's like, we should have dinner after. I'd like to see you again. Actually, he drives her all the way home, because when he opens the door, his brother Elliot is curled up with Kate Kavanaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we forgot to introduce Elliot. He's a real ham.
Yes.
He's a real character.
He's at the bar that night, too, spying on them.
He's the party boy version of Christian.
He's James Franco with a Michael Pitt haircut.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Good call on that one. Yeah.
He's kind of like fun-loving, and he's just like, they're having sex on the couch, which they got up and recovered from very quickly. He just got up and threw jeans on. He's like, alright guys, let's go. Like, they were in the middle of something. I felt like...
Sometimes you gotta be quick with it, and you gotta get back on your A game. Like,
I mean, I don't want to say
like that,
us at Sexy Time Theater are pros, but like, you don't just leave a girl halfway. Like, it's not nice. So whatever they were doing, he hops up the couch, throws them jeans on, and he's like, oh, sorry guys, sorry you just saw my dick. There's jeans on in front of you. And Kate's like, oh, hey guys, like, it's nothing.
It's perfectly okay that we just saw your dick.
Yeah. Like, and she's like, what are you guys doing? Like, not the time. Bitch, be cool. Wait until my guy leaves. Is like, that's like a friend rule. Be cool about this. Like, she totally violates him. Is like, what were you doing? Like, we'll talk about it later. This is the first Later's baby you hear, and you hear it twice. Later's baby, he says it to Kate, and then he says the thing. Which makes it a brother thing, which is not what it is in the book. After this, like, you know, presumably she's at work. The next scene we get is her walking out of work into the Max Martini's arms. He's like, I'm gonna take you to Christian. She's in an elevator again.
Just, again, a big waste of Max Martini.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna have Max Martini in this role, have a scene where she gets kidnapped by, like, Christian Grey's enemy, and Max Martini gets to take apart some motherfuckers.
Yes.
That could be happening. Spoilers.
Mr. Gray, she's been taken.
Things could happen.
I was hoping for that to happen the entire film. That there was a scene where he got the chance to, like, you know, show some muscle and, like, beat the shit out of some thugs that might have been Christian some problems or giving her some problems, but I didn't get it.
You might get some of that next one.
Oh.
Don't worry about it. We might get some of him
Little
going
tease for a movie from next year. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna be really excited for the second one, guys. That would drag you to that one as well. And we'll fight for 4 episodes of this. They throws her on an elevator. She gets to the top. She walks out into, like, the roof of a building with a helicopter. Yep. Charlie Tango, if you've read the books, you know the name of the helicopter. It's a big deal. She loves the helicopter. And he is going to take her to Seattle.
Can I just say, like, especially at this point was one of the biggest things that made me notice it. This movie, to me, and, like, everything about the story is literally just a middle-aged married woman's fantasy. Like, I'm swooning by this younger guy, and he's picking me up in his helicopter, and
he's a millionaire.
He's a millionaire.
Well, this scene wouldn't be out of place in, like, a Hugh Grant movie.
Yeah, no, not at all.
He's not broke like my bum husband.
Yes,
he can, like, take me in helicopters.
Totally. I just, like, and, like...
Not you, babe. That's housewives throughout the world, not me.
I wasn't even thinking it was me.
You kind of made a face. I thought you did.
For me, that was something that always held me back throughout this entire film, is that the entire story to me felt like a fan fiction.
I never focused too long on how it was some old woman's fantasy. I never thought of it. Not old. 50 is the new 30, guys.
But that's my thing. It's not that I focused on it. I felt like it was so blatant that I couldn't help but realize it.
I didn't feel it there. There are parts of this book where I totally felt like, oh, I'm in this woman's bedroom right now. Like, it's awkward.
This is the first scene of several where I thought, okay, the helicopter crashes, and the rest of this movie is a Jacob's Ladder scenario where she is just, like, dead, and it's like, the last thing she's thinking of is this BDSM thing that goes on.
Or maybe, like, she got Kate's cold and she's in a fever dream for the rest of it. This is all her crazy fever dream. It gets a lot weirder. So, you would think they're just, like, going to Seattle to have dinner somewhere. He takes her back to his house. He's very presumptuous. Oh, yeah. And she lets it just happen. Yeah. You know what? Because you're 21, you're ready to lose it. Yeah.
You got a billionaire taking you out, wine and dining.
If I'm gonna lose it to anyone, it's a super hot billionaire guy. Like, alright, I get it. But if you've held on to your virginity that long, I feel like you would wait more than 2 meetings, especially odd meetings where he's telling you he wants to do paperwork with you. Like, I wouldn't be like, he wouldn't be my first, like, choice. So they get to the house, and he's like, listen, I have a non-disclosure, which makes sense because he's a billionaire. He's like, you can't talk about this to anybody.
That's normal.
You've been to my house, you've been in my helicopter, you gotta sign some shit. And she's like, okay. He says something to her about how I don't do romance or something like that. They're talking about, like, romance again.
Yeah. Well, they go back to this a bunch of times.
Yeah. She's kind of asking him if they're dating now, but then she takes the hard left where she's like, are we going to make love now? And it was a robot voice that she used.
I feel like women have to give consent, and I don't know if that was consent. That was like, is this what we're doing now? And because I have no control over the situation.
Did I sign this because we're having sex? It just was so robotic. She was just like, so we make love now. And like she didn't know what she was saying. And he's like,
I don't make love. I fuck hard. Which I call total bullshit on you.
This is where Dennis Rodman and Madonna came in, took a pass at the script.
Yeah, like seriously, when he said that, I was like, oh, alright. But then you get later to the sex scenes, and I'm watching, I'm like, dude, like, you're not doing anything, man. Like
you're just like us.
Yeah, like, no, and that's what's sad. Not even just like us. I felt like I could teach Jamie Dornan some shit about how to, quote unquote, fuck hard. I just really thought that took me out of that one.
Well, yeah, and you don't know that yet, though. When you watch it the first time, you're just like, okay, we're gonna get fucked hard. Alright, Jamie.
Yeah. It did have this connotation of Buffalo Bill for me. I don't know why. It was the first thing.
And at this point, I would definitely think that there's ass stuff involved. And here's why. Because you already said something about my ass before when I didn't know what you were talking about. So when you're like, I fucked and I fuck hard, I'd be like, is this why I'm not gonna walk for a week? Because I'm gonna unsign this. I don't want to be any part of this. And he's like, I have to show you something. And he takes her up to the Red Room. You read the Red Room chapter of that book, and you're like, holy shit, I need a Red Room. You don't even have to be into it, but you want that room.
Is this the game?
Well, based on the rest of the
Pleasure.
apartment, his real fetish is interior design.
Oh, the apartment is perfect. Not to reference the book too much, but when I read how his apartment looked, they captured it beautifully. It was an amazing apartment. It was definitely something where I felt a billionaire would have it. The red room is the room where everything happens in all the books. You want that room.
Yes.
So he has this, like, weird skeleton key, and he opens the door, and she, like, walks in, and she sees all this stuff, and he's like, do you use all of this?
Yeah.
Like, and she's playing with some of the stuff. I don't think he says fetish. I don't think they ever use the word fetish, but he's like, this is what I like, or something. To which he goes, we have more paperwork to do. Before we can be in here, we must leave. And they go back down to the table, which I thought was an odd, intermittent, like, thing. Like, I feel like you would show that after you mention that you like it.
Yeah.
He also shows her the room she would stay in if she decided to be in this relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
He's
I
like,
forgot about that.
I don't sleep with the women I'm with.
Yeah.
So disjointed.
They
So
sleep-
weird.
Here's the thing, though. Only because I read up on Dom Sub, especially when I was reading it,
Yeah.
I was like, does this shit happen?
I mean, dude, I have a FetLife
Yeah.
account, so I know about
You
the
do?
media side. Let's not
Reese
get
is
into it.
a rough rider.
What's your username for everybody out there?
Darth Darky, Darth, Darkie, just saying.
His Tumblr will make your toes curl.
Oh, man.
I don't know if it's in the good way.
boy.
Some of it's kind of scary. He likes gimp suits, ladies.
I just calls it like I sees it, okay?
But yeah, so it's very uncomfortable. He shows her the room. It's definitely an ownership thing. So they're like,
Yes.
this is your
Yeah.
room. Not that I think any of them are wealthy enough to provide this kind of Disney experience. It's you're moving in.
It's not even like you're moving in. It's
Weekend.
You'll be here Friday through Sunday.
Yeah.
You're a weekend thing.
During the week, I need to focus on telecommunications.
He's very upfront with it, though, and that I do like. I mean, just being like, I'm now with a girlfriend, but I was recently single, and when you're getting in a relationship with a girl, and you know you want one certain thing out of them, you got to be upfront with them. And I did actually take a note of that, and I like that. That's really cool. And
Yeah.
he's not just a piece of shit guy that's just gonna sleep in anything that moves. You know, he says how it is, how he feels. He puts it out there, and he's very concise with like what it is that he wants out of that relationship.
When I was reading it for the first time, I was like, does he, during the week, the rest of the week, have another girl? Like, I got really confused. Since it's her room and she can decorate it however she wants, he probably wouldn't. But when you're first reading it, you're like, oh, like, this guy, like, that's a little much. But they go back downstairs, he gives her this contract, and he's saying,
The contract.
what
yes.
do you like? But when you have sex, like, what are your hard limits and, things of that nature? And she's like, well, and he's like, we have to be honest with each other. And she's like, well, I wouldn't know because I've never had sex. Which is the big reveal. She's a virgin, guys.
Yes.
We didn't know until now.
I'm gonna put it out there and just let all our listeners know, being 21 years old and not having sex and being a virgin is not that strange or that awkward because 1/3 of the Sexy Time crew lost their virginity at the age of 21.
Parents listen to this. I don't know if I need to disclose what age I was or Ben.
Okay. My apologies that one parent listens to this. That might be awkward where there's 200 other people out there that are listening to this that want to know the insights.
I'm just saying, we don't
of
need to
our-
give those ages away.
No, please, you don't have to give up yours. I was just clearly just stating on my activities.
Yeah.
That's all.
I don't know that, like, I'd be like, maybe I'm not ready for this if you're my first. I don't know.
This is gross,
Yeah.
guys.
What?
Why? She didn't have to be a virgin.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't-
agree with that. It didn't add to it. The only thing it did was bring it back to Twilight.
It
That's
felt-
why she's a virgin.
I just feel like it fetishizes things
Virgins.
even more by having this idea that this man's taking her for the first time. And it really is like
Yeah.
taking her. He picks her up, he sweeps her up, and says, we're gonna fix this. And he throws her in the room, and we get our first sex scene.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's like, we're rectifying this situation. Which if someone said that to me, I'd be like, I don't know that I want to sleep with you. I've been saving this for a real long time.
That was one of the biggest reasons what made me go. I'm like, dude, like, you talk so much trash about, like, I don't make love, I fuck and hard. And then we got this first sex scene, and I'm like, this is boring.
I don't think he would-
would.
I don't think a Dom of his level and caliber would do something like that. I know she's changing him.
That's the thing. He likes you so much that I buy that, though.
You buy it?
I would buy that because he is changing as a person.
Maybe, like, he's changing for her. So they go in, they start having this very vanilla sex. It's the first nipples and bush we see.
Do we get full frontal hairy bush on that? Not even like,
I feel like,
she
definitely had to.
It's very tender. It reminds me of a lot of, like, the sex scenes from the 80s with, like, Deborah Winger or, like, Rebecca De Mornay.
Yes. Deborah Winger.
Yeah, it's tender, and there's condoms in every scene. In the book, it's a big point, too. There's always a rip of a condom, and then...
Of course.
I feel like Dionne Warwick or Gladys Knight should be in the background.
It's so loud.
If you ask me to.
And, so you definitely get all of that. When they're doing the agreement, you find out he makes them get on birth control and get tested so that he can do whatever he wants.
Real quick, I'm fast forwarding a little bit.
You put it in all holes.
This fucking piece of shit. It's like, not only do you have to go on an oral contraceptive, I get to pick which one it is.
No.
It's in the contract.
It says it?
He says, I get to pick your...
Of my choosing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then later on, when she goes to the doctor and gets the oral contraceptive, she goes, yeah, we can't have sex for a month. He goes, really? And she's like, no, I'm just kidding. This fucking idiot doesn't even know how oral contraceptives work, but he's like, I'm picking which one you're on.
You're gonna know. She wakes up in bed alone, which is kind of like his MO. She's gonna wake up alone a lot, but she's their first taste. But she gets really upset about it, so she goes out to look for him. He's on the piano, playing the piano, and she hops on top of him. And it's in front of this giant, like, beautiful scenery of... They are fucking in front of Seattle.
Fucking in front of the Space Needle.
Yeah, it's just like, you can see the Ferris wheel in the background just going around and around. The next morning, they wake up and they start to have sex again. But it's not just any kind of sex. He ties her up with a gray tie. Yeah, he puts that gray tie around her arms and he puts it up and he's like, you can't move.
Yeah.
Don't move, don't talk, like nothing. And she's kind of giggling and he's like, no. You don't get to do that.
She's kind of like, this is kind of kinky. Like, she hadn't already seen the Red Room. Like,
yeah.
you're in for some shit.
Yeah. Sign that contract. You got shit coming to you that you don't even know. He starts to kind of go down on her. The worst noise that you could ever possibly hear when you're about to get into, like, that group is your mom going, where's Christian? Where is he?
Freaking out. Yeah.
I see, where's Christian? Don't let me in. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm going to go find him myself. And he's like, he's still asleep. He never sleeps this late. Like, I thought she was going to burst in. He's like, get dressed. And he's like, unties her. She runs out to his mom, at which point he's just like, hi, mother. And they have a real stiff exchange.
Quaint, yes.
I thought we could go to lunch together. And then out of the room, she comes.
And she comes in his shirt.
With no bra.
It's clearly they've been fucking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marcia Gay Harden is...
unfazed.
Right. She's a great actress, and she's always great at playing these very emotionally removed characters that are monsters.
Yeah, she's good at it.
She's good at that. Indeed. Why don't you create a character that's the unlikable rich mom? Mm-hmm. Instead, she's in love. She loves her.
Yeah, immediately.
Is there such a thing as an unlikable rich white mother?
Christine Baranski's always the lovable.
Yes, always lovable.
And we have to get back to...
They should have Christine Baranski play her.
Totally.
That would have been good. But I like Marcia Gay Harden.
There's no tension. There's no tension with any of the family stuff.
No.
You would think that when you have this mother who maybe shouldn't approve of his relationship with this woman he doesn't really know, that comes from some poor background and works in a hardware store. Or you have Elliot, who seems kind of like a sketchy dude that's dating her friend. None of this stuff pays off. There's no payoff to any of the family stuff they set up.
Spoilers. There may be in the future.
You need to create dramatic tension so that somebody will feel like watching the next movie.
Yes.
And they really do an awful job. I will agree. They do a really bad job at that. But that's it. Like, she comes out and she's got no bra on and she's wearing his shirt. She didn't clean up her hair. Like, she has sex hair. And the mom's like, oh my god, I never meet his girlfriend. You're so great. And it's just, it felt so forced. And it's not her fault. It's the writing. But it's all in one. Oh, I've never met any of his girlfriends. She's beautiful. Let's have dinner. His sister's in town. It's all that information in 5 seconds while he's walking her to the kitchen and walking her back out the door. They could have done it on a phone. They could have done it on a phone. It would have had the same impact. It wouldn't have mattered.
So much of a difference,
He could have said, like, she could have said something in the background and he had been like, she's here, Mom. Like, I have a girl here. Like, it could have worked the same way. She invites her to dinner. Mind you, this could have been a jump off. Like, she doesn't know. His mom has no clue. They go downstairs to the garage and there's like 15 gray cars because, again, this is Christian Grey. If you didn't get it.
Which one of them is yours?
Gray cars, gray man, gray eyes, Christian Grey. So he takes her all the way home, drops her off. You don't see him come in or anything. She walks in to a Geek Squad guy. I want to say, I don't really know who it is, but he's inside of her home setting up the computer and he's like, "You Anastasia Steele?" And she's like, "Yep, that's me." And he's like, "That's a bullshit name. Sign this." She's like, "What is this?" As she's signing, she's like, "Oh, this is too much." The only reference to her laptop before this is the beginning when she's like looking up Christian Grey to see pictures of him. It's the most stock photos of like a person ever. It's him on like a table with his hand on his chin, like, you know, sitting there, and like him standing up shaking a hand.
When you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you don't have time to be taking
super,
selfies, okay?
yeah.
I'm just saying. Like,
it looks like they took those in 3 seconds and just like, this is your webpage.
They do make a big deal about how he's never photographed in his private life, and that's all those kind of photos.
And those photos are just so robotic and crazy.
He gives her this laptop so he can email her constantly and be like, "Did you sign the contract yet?" And we see a series of back and forth. That's what it is.
Like, he has this laptop just like she has this laptop, and they, like, it's IM messaging instead of texting. He's like, "You have a flip phone. I can't message you on that. I'm going to message you on this."
She's got dead aim. Her way messages set up is probably lyrics to, you know, an All-American Reject song.
Anastasia Steele at aim.com.
And he goes, "Do some research." So she starts looking up. Also looks like stock photos, just a bondage.
Yeah. And the bondage she sees is never what she experiences. Because it's real bondage as opposed to the bondage that's created in this book. They're different. So she's like going back and forth. "Oh, maybe I'll sign the contract, maybe I won't." Kind of trying to be cute with him. And at one point he's like, "So, no, you're not signing the contract?" And she's like, "It was nice knowing you." She doesn't answer him after that. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And she can tell, like, she kind of does it to get a rise out of him.
Does she?
Yeah, I think so.
There's 2 ways to read what happens here. Either she did this so that he would pursue her more, or she really was turned off by bondage and decided she didn't want to be involved.
You are 100% correct. It's one of those 2 things, but you can even tell because, you know, we're watching a film, so you get to see her facial reaction.
She's laughing while she's typing it.
She's, in my opinion, it was obvious to me that she did this in a playful manner. She said, "Oh, nice knowing you." The same way a girl's playing hard to get. Like,
yeah,
that's what
same way the bar phone conversation.
Yeah. What I took away from the scene is that she was playing hard to get. But even with that said, his response to that
disproportionate.
Yes. "I'm going to show up in your home."
Guys, I'm just saying. I feel like both of you, coming from the same perspective, is making me feel crazy. I feel like it's a little dangerous to be like, well, every time this woman rebuffs this man's advances in this movie, it's because she's playing hard to get, and all he has to do is just show up and force himself back into her life, and she'll totally win him.
You're taking the words out of my mouth.
It's the nail on the head, but...
Yeah, you're taking the words out of my mouth. Because that's the thing, like, you know, she's playing hard to get, like, oh, like, you know, nice knowing you, cute, like, wink face, like, emoji, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, people do that all the time, girls do that all the time. But your response to that is, "I'm going to show up in your house without you knowing that I'm inside of your house with wine glasses and wine. I want you to like me, because I like you. Oh, you don't like me? I'm kicking your fucking door down without you knowing, and I'm coming with wine glasses, and guess what? Love me, bitch." I don't think that's cool. That's not cool.
There were no doors broken down.
He had a lockpick.
No,
he's like Max Martini.
It's worth mentioning, she's moved to Washington at this point. She has moved with her friend Kate. They're in Washington. Okay. So he's in the same town as her. He knows where he is. So it's okay. The movie didn't do a good job at illustrating the kind of relationship they have.
She wanted him to come back into her life. obviously.
It's just like at the bar where you're like calling you drunk. Oh, you want that person near you.
Yeah.
He's like, so you missed the tie or something like that, and he has the tie in his hand.
He goes, "Oh, it's nice knowing me.
Oh yeah.
I'll show you how nice it is."
Yeah. She's like
getting real assertive.
Yeah, he says something like, "Oh, you wanted the tie or something," and when he says that, she's like, "Yeah." To which he shoves her on the bed with force that isn't sexy.
I thought it was kind of sexy.
I will say, as creepy as I found everything up to this point, the actual sex scene is pretty harmless.
Yeah, I thought the pushing on the bed was kind of violent.
No, really? See, I thought that wasn't.
The sex wasn't.
They defanged everything.
Her.
No, there's no teeth to any of the sex scenes.
Okay, I thought this. Like when the way he shoves her down, I kind of thought was like, oh, that's a little much.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of shoved ladies down much more.
No,
yeah,
so
to
me, I thought
when
that
it's in a consensual, I want a throwdown kind of thing, but he just broke into her apartment. It's a different.
But let's bring it to the wall.
situation.
She wanted him there. She wanted him to, kind of take it from him a
She
little bit.
was telling him she missed the tie.
Yeah,
she missed him.
She wanted it like that. And
Yeah.
I picked up on that. I thought that was quaint and made sense.
So it's kind of weird. So he throws her down.
Yeah.
They start having sex. He ties her to the top of the bed and starts using ice all over her.
I was honestly
Which
taking
is very
notes.
sexy.
I was taking notes. I was like, man, I gotta get some ice cubes.
Yeah.
In my sex life. I
Good.
can't lie. I did.
He rips her pants off. He pulls her tank top over her head so it's used as a blindfold.
Ah, yeah, the blindfold. That was nice touch.
It's creative.
Yeah.
I was taking notes.
Christian's got the moves.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows how to pick a lock, but he got the moves.
You get this sinister vibe from him the whole movie, and then when you actually see him have sex, it's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's to kind of illustrate he's trying to ease her into it. He's blindfolding her. He's tying her up. He's like, you missed this, right? Like, you want this.
Yeah.
He's trying to get her to want his lifestyle.
Yes.
Because she's not his typical choice, but it's someone he wants. So he's going to pursue this to make her want it too. So they spend the whole night having ice sex. She gets real Elsa on it. He's leaving and he's like, you need to make up your mind about the contract. And she's like, I'd like to have a business meeting. She drives her little Volkswagen Beetle over to the giant gray offices. At one point, she just parks in front of the building like there's parallel parking just right there.
Well, I mean, they probably got valet there. They probably didn't delve into the film, but I imagine she probably tossed the keys to valet. Like, what up?
She pulls up. She's in like this red skinny dress
With the back zipper. It was cute. I liked it.
It's a back zipper, and he's like, if you wanted to have a business meeting, you shouldn't have shown up in that dress.
This is like a real Sandy from Grease moment where she's completely different. She's changed for this man. And
Hair
she's
mousse, cigarette hanging out.
Yeah.
She's got this confidence, and it's good. This is my favorite scene in the movie, I think, the contract negotiation.
To which he takes her into a dark room with no lighting, except like a little bit of orange background lighting from one of the walls.
Shannon, it's a red room.
Oh.
It was a power play.
Yeah.
He was trying to set a mood.
There was no lights. I thought that was kind of weird.
The Aryan superwomen are coming in and out with different food and beverages.
Yeah. I just thought for a business meeting, it was very dark, and I turned to bed and I was like, why are the lights off?
Dude, those Aryan Superwomen were understudies for Dress to Kill. Like, I swear. Like.
So they're going through the list of the different contract negotiations.
Yes.
They talk about butt stuff. They talk about butt plugs. They discuss genital clamps.
Yes.
They do that scene amazingly. I thought they had a really good back and forth.
It seemed
They
like
were
they
funny.
had fun with that. Yeah.
It's funny.
They're
It's
making fun of the
cheeky
situation.
humor, you know, poking jabs at the whole sexuality thing. I felt the fun in there. I enjoyed that scene. I thought it was cool.
I just feel like the movie needed more of that.
Yeah, it could have used more.
If it had more of them like being cute together, then it would have been better.
That was the first true time that the chemistry really showed through, and it showed through really, really well. And it kind of carried a little bit through the rest of the movie. This movie was dying for more and more shit like that.
She goes, genital clamps? And he goes, for your pleasures. I mean, she's like, absolutely not.
Yes.
I love just the way that she shut it down. She was like, nope.
I gotta understand. I don't know what the fuck genital clamps are, and I will study up after this podcast and find out what genital clamps are, because I think I might need them in my life. But that's neither here nor there.
He says, I'll throw in a sweetener for you. Because I like you and have never felt this way about anybody. I'll throw in a date. Once a week, we can go out to the movies, we can do whatever you want.
How generous of you.
Yeah, right? He's a real gent.
Yeah.
To which she is like, okay. And she, like, closes her book, and he's like, so you're signing it? And she's like, I'll read it over. And she closes it, and she goes to leave. He's like, you're not going to stay the night? And she's like, no, I'm not.
Well, she gets him wound up. She's like, what would you do to me?
Yeah.
And then she walks out after he's like, yeah, I'll do this and this. And she's like, no, it's all right. So she's playing the mind games
Sandy
now,
moment.
which is nice.
The next scene is the graduation. He's giving the keynote address, which he mentions how he had experienced hunger. He says something to the effect of, all of my work with donating money to Africa, I have experienced hunger and I don't want people to feel that way. She kind of perks up because she didn't know that about him, because she doesn't know anything about his personal life. Yeah,
totally.
They go to leave the graduation. Somebody takes a picture for not the newspaper, I'm guessing like tabloids. Take a picture of them together, and he's like, that's the first time I've ever done something like that.
It was like for the society page.
Yeah, for the society page. Christian Grey has a girl on his arm. Christian Grey and friend, I think is how they captured it.
I was really surprised how easily he accepted being taken a picture of him standing next to his girlfriend. Boom, like with the girl, with his girlfriend. So I thought that was kind of cool. That was interesting to me.
The story, to a degree anyway, is that this man is taming this woman by introducing her to this world of bondage and discipline and sadism, masochism. But she's really what they call topping from the bottom, where she's domesticating him.
Yes.
And she's getting him to become more of a normal boyfriend at the same time, so there's a give and take.
They are both playing that game with each other.
And this is that point where it's kind of like, there's something strange, almost kind.
So,
this movie's Beauty and the Beast. This movie is Beauty and the Beast for girls that 20 years on, they want to see a new version of that story that gets them a little hot and bothered.
With no enchanted rose,
Beauty and the Beast with genital clamps.
And there's a couple times where he gets mad and he's making faces like, you'll starve!
So they leave this graduation. His gift to her is a brand new car, which she again is like, it's too much, but she takes it. She's like, oh, it's too much, but I'm not going to say no.
She protests for 10 seconds.
Yeah. And he's like, I sold your old one. I got the money for you.
We got a fair price.
We got a fair price.
That was a bit much for me. I was like, really? You just stole my car? Like,
you stole my car.
You had a giant-ass garage. You couldn't just throw it in there?
Yeah.
He's like, it's not gray. No.
I can maybe give it a paint job and then we'll discuss it.
I don't know where this scene is in the movie, but we'll just throw it in now. They go for a walk where he describes how he started out as a submissive to his mom's friend.
He says that he had a submissive relationship where he was the submissive.
Yes.
When he was 15 and this woman was like 40.
From 15 to like 20, he was the submissive and he wants to not be that anymore.
She goes, oh, well, Mrs. Robinson? Yeah. She makes a Graduate joke. The Graduate is a almost 50-year-old movie at this point. Which is, again, this is a movie, like, the book, anyway, is written by a middle-aged woman. Nobody in the audience knows what The Graduate is.
What Mrs. Robinson is. Could have been like, who is she to me more? Like, you could have made, like, a more popular reference. Yeah. A scene that we
Who is she, Sam Taylor Johnson?
Yeah.
So they go to this dinner with the parents, which is honestly also a waste of time. And it's upsetting because they pick so many cool people to be part of his family. Like, Elliot's kind of cool. The dad and the mom are kind of cool.
Rita Ora's in it. She's just there.
Yeah.
She's the sister with the short bob.
Haircut. Look at the flapper.
She's
totally wanted to see more of her.
But you meet the dad for like a second and the mom, and they're like, yeah, she's really beautiful, isn't she? And she says something like, I'm visiting my mom in Georgia. To which he's like, where are you going? You didn't tell me.
What? He flips out like hardcore.
He's like, we're going for a tour of the grounds. And he picks her up and they like leave.
He's like slapping her on the butt and stuff like that. Like, trying to be really assertive and like place his dominant role. Like, how dare you? Like, you're going on a trip and you didn't tell me about it. Like,
it's like really I need to know these kinds of things. Blah, blah, blah. And
he's doing the dominant thing, but he's coming off like a whiny bitch.
Like a whiny bitch. The scene with them over the pool reminded me of a soap opera, like, but a Spanish soap opera where he's like shoving her away and she's like, why do you want to hurt me? And it's like real weird And she's like, I want a romantic relationship. I don't want the kind of relationship you want. To which he's like, I'm going to try for you. I'm going to do it. And she's like, I'm going to go see my mom, and then we'll talk about it when I get back. She leaves to go to her mom's house in Georgia because her mom couldn't be bothered to come to her graduation.
You gotta take care of the Tiger Woods.
Yeah. You gotta take care of the golfer husband at broke his foot. Hanging out with her mom and stepdad, and she's bored. Does she call or text him?
She texts
on
him.
the phone with him, yeah.
Yes.
And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going out to dinner. And she's like, Mrs. Robinson? And he's like, don't worry about it.
Is the Mrs. Robinson character in the other books?
Yeah.
Do you meet her?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, who do you think's gonna play her?
I don't know, but I know she's gonna get smacked.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe it'll be Angelina Jolie. Maybe
it'll be Madonna.
Linda
Madonna.
Fiorentino?
Is she still exist?
I know. I think she retired from
Is she still
exist?
Is she still exist?
I think she's in our plane of existence still.
I was gonna say alive, but I was like, that's mean.
Yeah.
Does she still exist?
I'm pretty sure she's still alive. But I love Linda Fiorentino, and I feel like she would fit a role like that perfectly. She's so sultry, and I haven't seen her in a while. Oh, I love Sean, Catwoman.
Michelle Pfeiffer?
No. She wanted
Also
the role
great.
of Catwoman.
Sean Young.
Yeah,
she dressed up like Catwoman to try to get Tim Burton to let her be Catwoman, but she just looked like a crazy person.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter to me who she is, because she's kind of just like...
Except if it was Madonna, then you'd lose
And then I'd be very upset. I do not like Madonna.
I would lose my mind in the most positive way ever.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like that?
I love Madonna.
Oh my god, it'd be so... like, fucked up if she didn't really die. And Christian is Willem Dafoe's kid. And he just grew up. Like, he left Willem Dafoe, like, to go live... Because Christian's adopted. Yeah. So he left, like, he was like, my parents didn't care about me. Which makes total sense.
They were always talking about people getting fucked to death in front of me.
Yeah! I experienced a lot as a child. That would make actually a lot of sense.
To make things more interesting for me, I've retconned that. It's a part of the canon now for me. No one else.
See it. Oh, so she
goes
like,
to Georgia.
Mrs. Robinson, is that who you're going out to dinner with? And he kind of is like, she's a friend. He doesn't deny or anything like that.
But he also does not elaborate at all.
He calls her, she's not answering. He's texting her, he's not answering.
Yeah.
Like, she's not giving any calls back. So then the next morning, she's getting Cosmos with her mom, and they have one, and they go to order a second. He texts her, and he's like, you're really going to have another Cosmo?
No, another Cosmo, another in all caps. Like,
another Cosmo? Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah, right?
So she's
must
like
be watching her. Yeah.
She's talking to her mom, and she's like, so Christian is here.
She goes, oh, fuck. Right?
Yeah.
Out loud to her mom.
Yeah.
He walks in, he orders a drink, he orders like a gin and tonic. Very specific, one of those, it's a Bombay Sapphire. If you have this, do this. If you have this, do it this way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing some James Bond
Shaking
shit.
that
Yeah, when you make that much money, you can be that specific when you go to a bar, yeah.
I want some lines.
Everything that the mom's observed in the last minute and a half would indicate that this man's a psychopath and he's overbearing. And that this is going to probably end with the death of her child.
Yeah.
Long
she's
term.
Like, I'm going to step outside.
But she goes, she hears his drink order and she goes, oh, I like him.
Yeah. Oh, I like him. He knows it's gin. And then she walks outside and she's like, alright, I'll see you later. But you know what, to be fair, they never established that this mom gives a shit about her daughter. She didn't come to her college graduation, which is a big one. So you kind of understand that the mom would totally let this shit happen to her daughter. And Christian's like, you know, if you were mine, you couldn't drink like this. He's referring to if you were mine. Why the fuck are you here? Like, where? Why
she
are you
wanted
here?
him to be there, though. As much as she wants to act hard and, like, you know, freak out about it.
And she's like, why aren't you with Mrs. Robinson? And he's like, she's a friend. And she does get very oddly possessive over him as much as he's possessive over her. Yeah. He decides to take her on a plane ride because they're up in the air a lot in this movie.
But it's not just a plane, it's like a hang gliding plane. It doesn't have an engine, I don't think, in it.
No.
Okay,
another plane pulls you up to a certain altitude and then just lets you go and you hang glide all the way down and it's just steering until you land.
That's horrifying.
This is another time where I was like, oh, she dies and it's the rest of this is Jacob's Ladder.
The date on the glider is kind of horrifying. They get down from the glider and he gets a message and he's like, it happened right now. And they're like, yeah, you know, you need to get back. And he's like, alright, I'll be there. Get the jet ready.
I just assumed that there was a hostile takeover of the Christian Grey Pencil Company.
Christian Grey Pencil Company is being taken down. So she heads home on this plane, and when she gets there, Max Martini is picking her up from the airport. In the car, she's like, how is he today? Or something like that. And he's like, not his best. Or like, stupid. And they get to the house, and this is where I am so sorry that it took us this long into the podcast to get here. This is when they finally go in the red room.
Jesus, wow, we just...
He gets out, and she gets in.
Well,
yeah.
He's on the phone, and he's still, whatever he's dealing with, he's still pissed about.
Yeah.
And the fact that he wants to immediately take her to the red room suggests that whatever hostility he has, whatever aggression he has that he can't reveal when he's in the boardroom or whatever he's dealing with in his professional life, he's harnessing that into beating these women in the red room. It can't just be that he enjoys this sexually, and everybody has their proclivities. It has to be that he had a rough childhood and that he's an angry person.
Well, we'll get to all that.
Yeah.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself. Again, he's angry, so he brings her across and his knee and he spanks her. After he gets done spanking her, he's like, we're gonna go to the red room now, and he takes her up to the red room, and he's like, remember your safe word, jello and red. He braids her hair and makes her kneel in front of the door with only underwear on. That's in the book. I was surprised at how often Dakota was naked. Not because I didn't...
She's a champ.
Yeah.
Dude. She got naked a lot in this movie.
With the way that she was talking in interviews, like she was disgusted by it. She really did do a good job of just being herself when she was nude.
It didn't seem awkward or forced at all.
After he says that to her, he picks her up and he makes her do the suspension, which is where he gets these cuffs that look like they belong on like a horse. They're like so huge and they're brown, like they're not even cute. He's in this massive...
They're not even cute.
Yeah! He's in this massive red room. Like, he color coordinates shit, but he's like, these are from the stables outside, and he like throws them on the floor. He puts her up, and he blindfolds her.
Yes.
He has the silver blindfold, and he starts whipping her with the riding crop. Guys, you don't know this, but in the books, there is a dream that she has where she comes to him smacking her with the riding crop on her downstairs.
I believe it.
He's ringing that doorbell with the riding crop.
He's knocking that door down. He wasn't ringing the doorbell.
So there's a lot that this movie leaves out to how much she is intrigued by it. Because most of this movie, they make it out to be like she's fucking pissed he's asking her to do this. She can't understand it. She won't wrap her head around it.
It's really not like that, though. If you actually watch the movie whole and all, she's very interested as much as she's
intrigued,
aback by it.
but she's also kind of repelled.
But she's repelled, and she constantly is like, but I want romance. But in like when she's in her dreams and her inner goddess is speaking to her, she's like, this could be fun. We should enjoy this. We should try this. But I don't think in the movie they do a good job at making it seem like it's free will.
I was going to say, it was totally lost.
This scene specifically, she's flogged, she's horsewhipped, she's suspended, he has rough sex with her, he spanks her. They managed to take all of the intensity, the eroticism, the tension out of any of that. What I've just described, if you haven't seen it, either be...
flogging, riding crops. You would imagine be hot.
Yes.
You would imagine it would either, depending on your personal point of view, it would either be sexy, or it would be disgusting, or it's neither. They managed to really, most of this, they homogenized it to a point where you can, it's consumable, I guess, but it's not, you don't have any feelings about anything that's going on.
Yeah, they make it very... clinical is the wrong word, but
clinical works, I guess.
Yeah, he's kind of just going through the red room, and he's like, this is the riding crop, and I'm going to strap you up, and I'm going to smack you with the riding crop. And then he's like, I'm going to tie you to the bed and flog you. The red room is so sexy in the books. Like, you're reading, and you're like, yeah, the red room. And they did an amazing job with that red, like, leather bed. I thought so much cool stuff was going to happen. And when they just, I was like, I'm excited for this. And when they just showed her, like, on the bed getting whipped, and she's kind of reacting to it, but she doesn't look like she's enjoying it.
Well, how do you really show how much you are enjoying? Like, you could be enjoying something like that.
She doesn't. If you are going by orgasm noises, she doesn't come once.
No?
Not throughout the whole movie. She makes noises that are kind of like, but that could be from getting beaten with a leather, flogger. I read that in one of the reviews. It was like, it doesn't even look like she's enjoying it. I don't agree with that. I think it looked like she was enjoying it. I didn't see her
It never looks like he's enjoying it either, to be fair.
Yeah, they both are kind of like, like we're doing this.
Going through the motions of it, yes.
And in the interviews that they have, they definitely say, like, it's not sexy when there's a camera guy next to you. Like,
it's not supposed to be sexy for you. You're doing your job. You're doing work. You're just portraying the sexiness for the viewers. Like,
as an erotic thriller reviewer, there is passion that can be captured on screen. There is a way for you to do it. Yeah, I've seen things from this podcast. There is a way that you can make this so sexy, and they did not.
But they didn't intend to either.
I feel like they should have.
They should have, but they didn't. They didn't want to challenge anybody. They wanted to make the most user-friendly movie they can make out of the subject matter, and I think they succeeded.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that much, but I feel like it was almost a little too user-friendly. Like seriously, everything, all the BDSM stuff was just really tame. Just so tame.
Absolutely.
It makes me upset that there's only 3 sex scenes in this movie, because you do not get past a page without there being more and more sex. And it'd be different if you filled in the parts that weren't sex with substance. But you're just throwing in dinners with random people, like, you have no attachment to at all. You're meeting her roommate who's supposed to be, like, her sister, and she has, like, no real attachment to her.
Is this where we get his, like, Batman confession about his secret origin?
This is coming. Yeah. So they get done in the room. She's gonna go into her room because this is her first night as a submissive. So she gets into her room and she falls asleep alone. To which she protests, like, oh, I want to sleep with you. And he's like, no, you can't touch me or sleep with me. Which everything he says is direct contradiction from everything he's done. Because he's let her touch and sleep with him before. Mm-hmm. That is when you get this Batman moment of him coming in and giving her his origin story. Ben, do you want to tell the origin story?
Oh, I wish I had the whole thing. I would just... I would perform a monologue
Ben
for
is
you.
Christian.
His mother was a prostitute and a crack addict, and I guess she burned him with cigarettes or something. At the age of 4, he was adopted by the Greys. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
and that way that Ben read it real deadpan like that, that is the way he says it. And she's laying there asleep.
I could have been Christian Grey.
You could have been Christian Grey. You have copper hair, kinda.
I feel like Ben is more intense than Jamie Dornan. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'll put it out there.
The intensity is definitely better there. She's asleep. Like, he doesn't try to wake her up because he doesn't really want her to know. Like, she's supposed to be asleep, and then she wakes up, like, all doughy-eyed. Oh, what are you... I thought you slept in your own room. Does he sleep with her?
No.
I'm pretty sure he's just like, okay, night, see ya. I was just watching you sleep because you don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it just looks like I sit in here and watch you sleep, which is so creepy. She walks down the steps in the morning and she sees him in, like, the living room, and she's like, I need to know the worst of it. And she's crying. I don't know why she's crying so bad.
Well, she wants to touch him and he won't let her touch him.
That's what it is. He's trying to touch her in the morning.
Why can't I touch you? Why can't I sleep with you?
Yeah, like
these
the
are
next...
big things that are hang-ups for her.
Yeah, the next morning she's like, let's talk. And he's like, don't touch me. And she's like, why can't I touch you? Why won't you let me in? And she starts sobbing. And she's like, I need you to show me the worst of it. I need you to show me the punishments.
She's like, why can't I touch you? Why can't you just seek enjoyment from us having sex? Why do you need this? Mm-hmm. And he throws himself against, like, a table, and he's just looking the opposite direction dramatically, and he's just like, because I'm 50 Shades of fucked up.
He'd been holding on to that line the entire film.
And in that moment, everybody that didn't read the book was like, oh, I got it.
Yeah. But, like, I feel like 50 Shades of something is a common saying, so...
And he does have multiple shades. Sometimes he's tender.
Most of the time it's the same shade being disguised. It's a different shade. And I'm not into BDSM, so maybe our BDSM listeners can send us some info via email at sextimetheater@gmail.com. I'm not into it, so I don't know. But the worst of it is him putting her over a spanking bench and smacking her with a belt.
Real quick, not to derail the whole thing. To being someone that's been around a little bit of minimal BDSM stuff, this movie was very tame when it came to the BDSM stuff, and when she asked for the worst of it, it was literally just him beating the shit out of her. So I understand to be apprehensive and be like, I would never want you to do something like that to me before. There's nothing sexy about that. To each your own, and people like that.
Well,
it's just
punishment.
you just getting beat with a leather fucking strap. That's not sexy, and that's not something...
They managed to make it not even look that brutal.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
You never see any welts. You never see any aftermath of, like, her body.
She wasn't even really crying, really.
Well, like, you could have made it really creepy. Like, BDSM gets real.
I don't know what it's like in the book, but based on the Red Room, the whole movie, you're like...
You could have used a switch.
Yeah, well, the whole movie is just suggestion. There's no actual...
That's the movie.
Hard BDSM in this movie. I kind of knew what the ending was going to be like. I was fairly aware of how it ended. I honestly thought there was going to be an extended scene where he was wailing on her with various, like, floggers and... But just literally
that's what I mean. There's stuff.
You spend a small fortune on this room, and you use a belt from your closet.
It was a belt hanging on a belt wall.
Okay.
This is a punishment for saying having a drink too many. This is a punishment for rolling your eyes when he talks to you. And he gives a number. He's like, I'm going to do it 6 times, and you're going to count with me. What made me upset with Ben kind of pointed it out to me, which is kind of funny that Ben understood this movie better than I did. I was like, you know, she has her safe words. She has red and yellow. And his whole thing is like, I want to do it at your comfort level. And these are why we have safe words. And if you're going to venture into this world, you should use those safe words if you feel uncomfortable. But he starts just wailing on her. 1, 2, 3, and she's counting. And he gets done, and she's like, you would never do this to me again. How does this give you enjoyment? He's sweating. He's sweating because he does like it to a degree, but it was hurting him to do it to her too.
Yeah. Shannon asked why she didn't say stop. She didn't say red. She didn't go red. And I said she thought at some point he would see how much pain she was in and stop himself. And she was disgusted because he didn't stop himself.
I'm like, Ben's fucking deep.
You thought way too long and hard about this one.
I'm like, she don't know about this world. She just needs to go with the rules she's been told. She's like, you're never doing this to me again. She gets redressed and she runs to the elevator, to which he's trying to chase her to be like, I'm sorry. She's like, no, stop. And she like puts her hand out and he's like, Anna. And she's like, Christian, and the door is shut, and that's the end of the movie. As someone who's read the book, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that there wasn't anything that happened in the first one.
Yeah.
But if I was a watcher of this movie, I'd be like, oh, this movie had no fucking sense. Like, had no reason.
I said this as we were walking in the theater as that final scene happened. I'm like, there's no way that you can justify ending your film
There's no plot
like that. Like,
I like the ending. I like the idea of the ending. The fact that there's a sequel kind of bugs me. Like, if it was just this movie and that was how it ended, that's a really interesting, ballsy way to make it end. Like, make it end.
Yeah.
And by ballsy, by, like, you know, having an ending that makes no sense, then yeah, I guess that would.
No.
But if you're going to get another one of these next year, it's not the same.
No.
It's almost like the ending of a TV show.
And I said that as we were walking in the theater. I'm like, the ending of this film made me feel like I need to be showing up, like, for next week's episode, you know, like, it just...
Well, and there's a difference between a good end of a movie and a good whole movie. So I understand what Ben's saying, like, the ending was good. When I looked back on it, I was like, well, I knew things that readers didn't, but if I just saw this, it was kind of just no plot. People kind of talking about sex the entire time.
And I was really upset by the ending when she was like, you would never do that to me again, with the whole beating thing. I was like, you asked for that. You asked to...
You wanted the worst.
The worst, the extent of it. And then to be like, you'll never do that to me. Don't get me wrong, no one should ever receive, like, brutal punishment like that. But you asked for it, and then you're going to turn around and be like, you're trying to, like, kind of be ballsy about how, like, you should never do that to me again type of thing.
He's trying to make this what she wants, but he was trying to ease her into it. Because he didn't want to upset her. He didn't want to hurt her. But she's like, give me the worst. And he does. And she's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
You asked for it.
If it's not your cup of tea, you have every right to leave. But don't shame him like... I don't know. I don't think you should shame him.
Agree.
So we did it with 50 Shades of Grey. Now it's time for some titillating tidbits.
Ooh.
This is a real quick one. I feel like everybody already knows most of the info they need to know about this fucking thing.
Yeah. Fanfiction, Twilight.
Just want to point out that there was 14 minutes of sex in this movie. It's like an hour and 40-minute movie. So like 10% of the movie is sex.
It should have been 70%.
Dakota Johnson only used a body double for the whipping scenes. So whenever you actually see a vlogger or anything on her, it's a body double.
She don't actually get hit by anything?
I guess not.
She's not down with
She got hard limits.
The dominatrix interview I read said that you should never backhand a whip. And the whole scene, he's just backhanding her with it. Which is kind of harsh, because it should be, like, fun, light padding. Instead, he's like, whoosh. It definitely was reminiscent of Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the tidbits.
Okay, and I'll just go really quickly through the STDs that we caught through this film. You know, we got to see plenty of man-ass by our man, Jamie Dornan, that started off with our first sex scenes. Mm-hmm. We got full frontal bush 2 times, hairy full frontal bush by Dakota Johnson.
I don't even remember seeing her bush.
Oh, totally.
You've seen it a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, two times totally you can see hairy bush.
I'll take your word for it.
You
I'll
don't
watch
see
again.
this slit?
No. Just the bush. Just the
slit.
You get the...
You know what? You're always grossed out by us. That's the grossest thing anyone's ever said on this show.
You might as well just called it nappy dugout and just cut out the middle.
No, I feel like you said that when we were talking about Madonna. You were like, you never see the... What did you say?
I don't know. It wasn't that.
It wasn't slit, you gross.
We got to see Dakota Johnson's tits plenty of times, which, you know, for a small frame girl, nice boobs.
We got to see body double tits.
Body double tits. They weren't her tits, but they were
Oh, no, you see her tits, but I'm saying you see a body double too.
And her ass looked very nice, but that was about it. We only got to see our 2 mainstays, and, like, you know, you didn't get any other characters or any other actors getting really naked on here for the STDs. The sexy time data, so. We
are gonna do a little sexy disclaimer. There's a lot of anti-feminist stuff going around about this, about how, you know, this isn't dom sub, this is a man controlling a woman. To which I'm gonna say, this movie and this book are so stupid that fight's not worth it.
I will say that, as long as you don't take it as an indictment of BDSM, like real BDSM, and you understand that it's not the same thing as this movie, then that's fine. You can certainly feel that way.
Yeah.
I have no objections to that.
Yeah, the fact that they make him damaged to have to, you know, be in this mindset, or like he was abused as a child and that's why he likes this. That's not always why people do this. Sometimes it's just sexual enjoyment. And I can separate those things as this writer doesn't know shit about it. And she tried to, like, it was a fantasy she had.
You don't have to be damaged goods to be a dom or a sub. And you
you
certainly don't have to be
enjoy it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a weak, stupid person to be a sub.
Yeah, that's true as well. You don't have to be a virgin.
We sat through this thing to answer the question, guys, was it sexy? Reese?
Okay, so when it got sexy, it was definitely sexy. But the reason why I'm going to say that it was not a sexy time overall is because with a movie like this, you place so much focus and so much attention on the limits that are going to be pushed with the BDSM, like, nature of the film and some of that nature. And it was so tame, and the actual intercourse sex was so ridiculously tame that it really just made me go back and think of, like, this is supposed to be racy. This is supposed to be pushing the envelope. And to me, it's someone getting whipped a couple of times and kind of just mediocre softcore porn sex. So for me, not a sexy time.
Shannon?
I honestly was too distracted by how different it was from the book. I feel like I shouldn't have read it, because if I hadn't read it, then I would have just enjoyed it for what it was. But for me, I was like, there's so much more sex. I was so let down by everything it wasn't. The soft sex, like when they were having sex the first time, and the icy sex was definitely sexy. I had a sexy time during those scenes. I thought that was really, like, cute the way they did it. But the rougher stuff, it felt odd because she didn't want it to be rough, and you could tell that she was kind of not enjoying it. I don't know how I would act it, so I can't say that, like, she did a bad job. It wasn't chemistry like when they had the ice cube and the other sex.
I mean, I like rougher stuff in the bedroom, just a little bit more to say. And when there's someone that you're with and they're not into that, and they're just kind of doing this to appease you, you can tell, and it doesn't really make it that much sexier. And you're like, kind of like, oh, well, this is cool, but it's a little bit takes you out of it. That was what happened, what you were just saying about that. There's a lot of times you can tell that, like...
Yeah, I just think it wasn't sexy.
It wasn't reciprocated, so therefore it wasn't really all that sexy, you know?
But no, not that he wasn't reciprocating. It just felt like neither of them wanted to be doing it as actors in that
That's
role.
what I mean. That's what I mean in the reciprocation. I didn't mean in the characters.
Reciprocation would be like one of them didn't want to. Like, I felt like both of them didn't really... Like, when he was hitting her, he didn't really want to be hitting her. Like, it was kind of weird.
Okay.
Ben, did you have a sexy time?
There's this thing that happens when you're sitting in a movie theater and you're watching a sex scene where there's this heightened kind of... I wouldn't say it wasn't discomfort, but there's like...
Yeah.
Your eyes are glued on it. It's a giant screen. You're right next to strangers. But if I was just sitting at home watching this on TV, I would have been checking my phone probably during every sex scene.
Yeah, I would say that altogether we did not have a sexy time, but we should do Sexy Time Library, where we read the book and then you guys can tell me your book thoughts.
A very sexy book club.
And then very sexy book club, and then we can talk about how it was sexy the book was.
I really think as a movie, it suffered from a lack of humor. And the fact that they injected some humor into a couple of the scenes really showed disparity between those scenes and the scenes where they're trying to play it like a melodrama.
Yeah, they flipped around. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with it. I felt like it was them trying not to piss anybody off, not to have too much sex, not to be too funny. It felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It
needed to be fun and campy like Showgirls or Basic Instinct. And instead, they spend a lot of the time trying to take it seriously, but not even like serious. They don't take the time to have a strong screenplay or strong performances that are really well informed and crafted. Either make a really fun, stylistic comedy out of it, like not a comedy, but like tongue in cheek kind of.
Yeah.
Or do
make it a drama where it's like intense.
Make a relationship movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't really... they kind of make a relationship movie, but even there, they were doing half measures because they didn't put enough effort into it. So that was 50 Shades of Grey, and presumably this time next year, we will be talking about 50 Shades Darker.
We get into the butt drawer in 50 Shades Darker.
Ooh, the butt drawer.
That was one big thing that I was like wanting to see them get into in this one, and they did not. And I'm like, really, man? You can't bring up the terms butt drawer and not touch on it at all. Like,
you gotta touch the butt drawer.
Yes, indeed. I did not hate it. It was not the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Was it good? No, it wasn't good. But was it like the worst film ever made? No, not at all.
Okay, guys, so thanks so much for listening to our 50 Shades of Review. Make sure you check us out on Podbean at sextimetheater.podbean.com. We are also available on iTunes, and I think we are even up on YouTube now, right, guys?
Yeah, just search Sexy Time Theater. We have our own channel. Still on Stitcher.
Oh, we should totally get one of those GoPros and record us just sitting around talking about Sexy Time Theater. I think that'd be really fun. Also, don't forget that we do have an email account, sextimetheater@gmail.com. We're getting really lonely in there. We need some emails, people.
Please.
Just tell us if you think it's sexy.
Yes, hit us up. Tweet us. Email
At
us.
Sexy Time Theater.
Also, personal accounts, Reese.
Darth Darky at Twitter.
At Twitter. At Shamrock Assault.
Not on Twitter, guys.
Really? I thought you had a Twitter.
I have like a ghost account. I use it to follow celebrities.
Well, if you talk to us at 6 times theater, it'll be Ben getting back to you.
It's shameful.
Yes.
Just, what is your Twitter handle?
It's like BP87BP, I think.
Classy.
I don't have anything going on.
So Ben might stalk you online. You don't know.
Just tweet us at Sexy Time Theater, guys. Don't make a fucking thing out of it, guys.
Tweet us at Sexy Time Theater.
Please, make a thing out of it. Make as big of a thing as possible.
Ben's a creep.
Next week on Sexy Time Theater, our first Sharon Stone movie, guys. And our first movie involving a Baldwin. I think it's Billy. Or it's not Alec.
No.
All I know is it's not Alec.
It is Billy. You're right.
It is Billy?
It is Billy.
You're fucking Billy Baldwin, aren't you?
The movie is Sliver, not Slither. Don't think I said Slither and then watch Slither with Nathan Fillion where he fights aliens. I said Sliver with a V. So check us out next week. Until then, I'm Ben.
I'm Reese.
And I'm Shannon.
Go be sexy. Laters, babe.